Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 179. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, drnorge on the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. 30 seconds to live, guards of slaves. Enough time to call a loved one or to pray, perhaps. Probably not both. So says the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin and Duke of You Know.
How's it going,
Secret Six.
Dude, I did the little clip of that on my Facebook.
Did you really?
Right after reading it, I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome.
Just such a great book. Do you see I'm dressed for this episode?
Yes, I do see you dressed.
I wore an outfit. I've got my Hawkman t-shirt on, and I've got 4 rings on. I've got 2 Black Lantern rings, and you're probably wondering why I have Flash rings on. Because in theme, I'm preparing for Hawkman's inevitable rebirth.
And I would like to see a show of hands of the people who thought when Sean said he was dressed in it, imagine him in some costume, with the tights and the capes and all that stuff. Because, some people listening were thinking, as soon as you said, and I'm dressed for it, and we're talking Superman, they're thinking, okay, Sean's wearing a cape and tights.
Jim, let's talk about our sponsors for this episode on that note. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Secret 6, number 15. Did you see that this one's going to be the one guest written by John Ostrander?
Yes.
It's art by Jim Calafiore, cover by Daniel, I know it's Luvisi. It's Luvisi. I know I butchered that name. Beautiful covers, though. Deadshot takes center stage. He's always been a killer, but now the urge to kill everyone is threatening to take him over completely. Can the mercenary pull himself out of these murderous depths, or will he drown in the murky waters of his own addiction to death? Guest written by John Ostrander. It's 32 pages, regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79. I'm excited for that. I think that is so cool that he's coming back for a guest spot for that particular issue. So I love John Ostrander, so it's really cool to have him back. And I love how Gail Simone's been doing so much at the Comics 4 site. On Newsarama, there's constant updates on what's been going on with that program. So if you haven't had a chance, check out comics4site.com to see more details about John Ostrander and pick up this book. And you get it at a discount.
Yeah.
Episode 182 is the official start date of our Preacher. Issues 1 through 12, we have the hardcover from InStockTrades.com, regularly $39.99, 47% off, only $21.19. Volume 1 and 2 are available in trades, $14.99 regularly, 47% off, only $7.94 each. And thank you, InStockTrades.com, for supporting us with so many options. Want to remind everyone about the Hero Initiative, heroinitiative.org. Check that out. Remember, if you help comics4site.com, anything that they get over their amount goes to Hero Initiative. But you can also become a regular donator to the Hero Initiative. I do periodically. I'll go over and do a PayPal donation to them. I'm a big supporter of this. I think we all should participate in some form of charity and helping people out who are in need. And I think this is kind of a great way to support people that we're connected to, because we're all in this hobby together. So that's why I really believe in these programs, and it's great to see them out there. Wanted to just shout them out again. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth in plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show. This
episode, one of our main features is going to be a in-depth look at the Smallville season premiere. We are joined by a special guest for that segment. We're also going to be talking about Secret 6 and Wonder Woman number 13. So definitely check the show notes for that. We also have some listener voicemails and emails. We're going to be back on Thursday with the new show. We're going to be discussing Superman's Secret Origin and the current status of the Superman books. We have a segment that we actually already recorded, and we have some more listener emails and voicemails for that. We started at 5:30, and we did so much recording that we stopped at midnight. The only break we took along the way was to have some dinner and watch Smallville. So we've got some great content coming your way this week because we recorded more than one episode worth of material. So we kind of split it up in a way that logically makes sense, but we did get to all that discussion, so it's going to be a fun week at Raging Bullets.
He is called Hawkman. His gauntlets possess awesome powers.
Jim, our next review is going to be of Secret 6, number 13. Gail Simone is the writer, Nicholas Scott, with Carlos Rodriguez on pencils. Doug Hazelwood with Rodney Ramos and Carlos Rodriguez are inkers. Jason Wright is the colorist, Travis Lanham letterer, Sean Ryan editor, and Daniel Luvisi is on the cover. And it must be Luvisi. I'm probably totally butchering it. It's Luvisi. I think I've been...
I'm going to say Luvisi.
Yeah, I think so too. So I apologize for butchering that because I'm loving these covers.
Yes.
This is such a great looking book. Beautiful Diana on this cover, and then you see Bane and Scandal, and I love the way that they were paired on the cover because of so much that's been going on with them. Like, what really is that relationship, and how is that going? Deadshot and, of course, Catman. You know, the ultimate buddy cops who seem to...
Yeah, they have issues. They have issues. Just like everybody on this team has issues.
Yes.
It's a complicated. It's a wonderfully complicated. You know, they are who they are. It's funny because I throw out there that they're a villain team, but to be honest, I don't look at them as villains. I just look at them as.
But don't you feel weird that because you know you should.
Yeah, we should think these guys are bad guys and bad girls. You know, we should think that they're evil, and we should think, we shouldn't be cheering for them as much as we're cheering for them, because they do kill without regard, and they will kill innocent people, not just the villains. So you can't even call them a Stone Cold Steve Austin or a Punisher type, because they'll go up and kill the innocent people as well. It all depends on which side they fall, but they do have
also the job.
Yeah,
and I do think, it's funny. You want to lump these characters in as a group, and that as a group united, they kind of all do one thing. This story is really good because it reminds us that these are all individuals, and how this split that's been going on for the past couple issues has wound up. It's been very complicated for each person, their reason for doing what they did and choosing the sides and then changing the sides again and again with what's been going on in this story has been due to the fact that each of these individuals, while they have that common thread that pulled them together in the beginning and that mercenary thread that keeps them together, they do have their own little issues and quirks and things that give them a code. And even if it's a very loose code, there is that, and I like that about them, that there's nothing cookie cutter about any of these characters in any shape or form. I love time-related characters and stories where you see them experiencing different eras. It does show how the trauma of, we're talking about Jeanette, the trauma of her past clearly affected her. I do like that their facial expressions, like when you see the characters that really are in the present day, you see that their facial expressions match what's going on present day.
Yeah.
It's just that Jeanette's seeing them out of time.
I would love a period piece, Secret Six. Mm-hmm. Somehow, just some wonky way where they're flashed back into the past. Normally,
we do see that in this though multiple times because we do see it with Scandal.
Yes. But I'm talking an actual period piece where they're back in time.
Oh, talking a time travel issue.
A time travel issue where they go back to her time. So you have the current Jeanette, who is this banshee, goes back in time and runs into the living Jeanette. Mm-hmm.
Or not even runs. Because you got to be careful with time travel stories with how you, because we've seen it with Booster Gold, how you affect time. Well, although
that's why
you could totally get away from this, because what would they do, and could they make things worse?
Tell me that would be would she let her husband kill her, knowing what she becomes?
Would Deadshot?
Yeah.
Or would Deadshot let things go the way they do because he likes how she is?
Yeah.
It's a tricky balance as far as that would add for a really twisted dynamic.
Oh man, that would be an amazing story.
So it would, or would they just who would watch, who would get involved, and why?
Oh man, his reaction.
Yeah. Wow. Jeanette clearly feeling what she is, but not seeing the rest for what they are was something that that how dazed she was. She didn't really realize that. Wait a minute, we're in a big mess here. Why are they even here? Should they even be here? Those fine details were totally awesome, though, that we got to see Bane and Artemis reacting to the coming people, and it was great. I loved that. I love when she comes back. Why must reality so often be damp and squalid? And must we? I don't even like Amazons when they're talking about rescuing the Amazons. She's just such a great character in that... Yes, we've seen her be very deviant in this book in the way that she lives her life and things like that, but yet there is something about her that there's a properness to her, that she's got this weird line where yet she always feels like she comes from class, even though we see I love that she skirts so many lines.
There's a classic elegance to her.
Yeah.
And I just love just how she went from being the weepy spinster with Scandal to being back to being the terrorist, that hardened, criminal, and then you get the little speck of that fun in there. Do we even like Amazons? Wait a minute. It's that character, her complexity of her nature is just this wonderful balance that I absolutely love. And then when she goes over the board and goes full Banshee on you, you're just like, oh yeah, there's a whole nother power level that is out there. So I was just like, wow.
And there's so much of her history that can be explored in this book, just like what we got with Scandal in this particular issue. It's so interesting to, piece by piece, slowly get reveals of who she is and what her past is like. I want to know, so I could read a whole miniseries about her and her past with the Amazons.
Yes,
I think that stuff is fantastic.
I want to know more about her dealings with the Amazons.
Yeah, and what led this. But I mean, if I get it in the main book, it's just gradually fed to me too. I love that. I mean, this character is so engaging. Now let's talk about Grendel. With a face that only a mother could love, I don't think he was Cookie Monster nice before they crucified him with barbed wire and nailed him to the stakes. I imagine that made him a little more ornery, though. Or is he one of those creepy dudes that liked that?
Dude, man, he enjoyed that, I think. I'm going with that kind of stuff, he probably saw that as a nice way to loosen up, relax the muscles, stretch them out a little bit right before the gruesome death and destruction's about to happen.
This should be a Jim Henson film. I'm going to talk about that a little later, because I actually...
Oh, my God.
But we'll go from that. But the funniest bit here, do you think these things would fit me? I was like, oh, my gosh, they did not just go there. It's actually the basis for one of our contests, which I'll announce later.
Oh, God. It's wrong and right. It's so wrong and so right.
Ragdoll.
That Ragdoll. Just seeing him in the tiara and boots, I was just like, he pulls it off. It works for him. I could actually see him, adopting like a little tiara in his new costume, or even the boots or something. Just, it would fit.
I've got to be totally honest with you. I thought it was hysterical and funny, but all I kept thinking is he's just so wrong. That's what I like about him, but I never once thought like he's pulling it off and it's working for him.
Oh yeah, he was working it. Just work it.
You go, girlfriend.
This cover go good. Okay, I'll stop right there.
Wow.
I almost slipped into some RuPaul there going on.
I am so glad I'm doing the contest that I'm doing. Because you just so fed right into it.
I got an idea.
With your envying him just now, you fed right into it. It's like hook, line, and sinker. You set me up.
Well, I got an idea what the contest is, so that's why I'm having fun with it.
Well, then,
if it's what I think it is, I'm thinking this is going to be fun.
Well, then why wait for it? Let's about it now.
Let's jump right into it.
Your job as listeners here, if you'd like to enter our contest, is to create your own ragdoll of the whatnot. This can be a Photoshop, a comic strip, a drawing, a story of the sensei donning a costume or elements of a costume, like we saw Ragdoll do in the most recent issue of Secret Six. This is basically you showing the sensei working it.
Just work it.
We'll be choosing the top 4 most creative and interesting ideas. So don't worry if you're not like the best artist or writer in the world. We're looking for creative ideas. Have fun with this. The first prize is going to get a trade of your choice from InStockTrades.com on me. So I'm going to purchase that trade. You get to choose what it is, and I'm going to get it for you. So it's a trade paperback. That's what we're looking for. So trade paperback, any one that you want. Second, third, and fourth prizes are going to be from our comic grab bag. Basically of stuff that I've donated in there, and also stuff that's been donated by listeners. So we got a comic grab bag going right now that you can choose from. And all of the entries are also going to be a part of our ongoing website contest that we've had. So people that have been sending things into the show automatically have been getting entered. But this will also make you double dip that you could actually join us for a segment on the show where you get to pick a book like Mandy's currently doing with For Tomorrow. And we'll be choosing that next one on episode 182 when we kick off Preacher. So we're actually going to choose, I should say, the next listener who's going to participate in that. This contest, we'll run, I'm going to see what participation's like. We're going to run it for a few episodes and see what kind of things we get. So we'll run it for, let's say let's say the deadline for this contest is also episode 182. Okay, so that we can we'll pick our top 4 at episode 182. Whatever we think they are. Let's have some fun with this one. So, Ragdoll of the Whatnot. I couldn't help but go there, though.
Yeah.
You fed right into
it.
I figured you know me well enough by now that you kind of gathered where I was going with this. Now, one of the things I really do like about this issue, Reputation would be a powerful motivator in the mercenary line of work. And that being brought up repeatedly from these guys, that is their bread and butter. That is their money. If you don't have a reputation, people are not going to pay the big bucks for you. If you've got a dead shot-like reputation, they are.
Yeah.
You know, and this group together, with some of the things that they pulled off, would have a very strong reputation, especially with some of the players involved. You know, you got a Bane, you've got a Catman, you've got a Scandal. These are all characters that easily are a big top money draw being together. You're not just getting one, you're getting them as a collective group. You're paying big money. Jeanette has obviously got connections, and Ragdoll,
Yeah.
yeah, Ragdoll.
Yeah.
I think, you know, where their reputation succeeds, they're actually able to utilize that guy and rein him in.
Yeah.
Somebody like that.
Yeah, he's just that, you know, you try to figure out Ragdoll. Yeah.
You'd pay money for him to leave or something like that? Yeah.
You know, any one of the other members of that team, I would, you know, if I was like a super villain,
Although
bad guy,
I got to admit, if I really want to get somebody back,
yeah, you unleash Ragdoll.
I'm sending
on him.
Ragdoll to their house.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, that really would be
Because he's
the
got
ultimate
that,
stick it to somebody.
he's got that super freaky stuff where it's going to get nasty, it's going to get messy, it's going to get, you know, 3 hefty bags, you know,
Right.
full of something is just not going to be right.
But I'd have all kinds of, like, edicts for him. I'd say, you know, like, you basically, here's your job, I'm going to pay a certain amount of money. You need to live there for a certain amount of time until they totally, like, you know, tap out. And, you know, do insane things to the toaster and whatever else you want to do when you're there. But, I mean, he's one of those guys that, like, I take it back. At first I was going to say, why would you hire him? And now I'm totally convinced that maybe he might be the MVP of the team to hire if you really want to get somebody back.
And see, I'm like, Dead is dead, man. You know,
Yeah.
Deadshot's my guy. If, you know, seriously, of the team, Deadshot's the guy.
But here's the other thing. Dead is dead, correct, but if you knew that Ragdoll was going to be there after you were dead, and who knows what he would more than likely do.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that does take it to a whole new level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it'll probably wind up on YouTube. Because he doesn't care. You know, I mean, that does add a whole new layer to the whole scenario.
Yeah.
Catman and Deadshot, while they are handling this professionally, I did like that they had to vote on how to handle their former teammates. Rather than yelling for their heads, these guys may have the skewed sense of morality, but there is a code there. It's a complicated one, but I guarantee, and we see this throughout the issue, no two of this team have the same code, but there is a code. We've seen it before, and I don't even know if all of them are aware that they even have one. But there is that element there, which I find interesting about this team, and I love that.
Yeah, the statement "no honor among thieves," you know, is something that, you know, one, it that does annoy me because, you know, among a true thief, among a true, you know, professional, there is a code. There's no honor among thugs. There's no honor among punks. They don't care. They'll, you know, double cross you, stab you in the back. But a true thief, a true professional, like the rogues, there's a code among the rogues. There's a code among Secret Six. There's certain villains have this code of conduct, have this code of honor. Even though they're villains, even though they're thieves, murderers, and whatnot, they still live by this. And that's the difference with Secret Six. They're professionals.
Even those totally without codes, you know, I mean, deliberately fight against having, you know, a sense of morality, fight against morals. That is their code. They go out of their way to make sure that they don't do anything with any moral conscience, but that becomes their code. I mean,
right.
I know that's a very twisted way to say that, but I mean, they do have, it's interesting. This gets very deep, but I do love the fact that as this story gets deeper and deeper, there's always this, Doll, you chiming in on this? What? Wait. Sorry, I wasn't listening. What were we discussing again? As he's sitting there in Diana's boots.
Yeah.
It's just a dark story throughout this, and deep, but hysterical in such horribly wrong ways. Every time Mr. Smith says exemplary, I wanted to smack him. And I so love that they called him on that.
Yeah.
I want to drool my poison into your open mouths, descendants of nothing. Will you have me? Will you make me unwelcome? Personally, I think that's Grendel for Cookie. I mean, and like I said, could you imagine a Jim Henson version of this? Muppet Secret Six. Statler of Waldorf and Statler could be Mr. Smith. Cookie Monster, obviously, as Grendel. Scooter could be Catman. Now, I wonder, you're probably saying to yourself right now, why Scooter? Think about Scooter, though, and his dynamic range. All right, at first he was a behind-the-scenes guy, but then he became, you know who Scooter is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, which means he's a guy who was behind the scenes on The Muppet Show, has become a major player. He's proven that he can go beyond his lot in life, his role. So Scooter, I think, is ready to be a Catman. Janice from the band could be Scandal. I did find I was very limited on Muppet women I could choose from, so I really had to do a stretch there.
Yeah.
Miss Piggy as Jeanette, though, with the dressing up and everything
definitely.
like that.
And then
that's why I was like sitting there, I'm like, okay, out of the women, where does Miss... And it really was, I placed Miss Piggy first. Then, unfortunately, I had to find somebody else for Scandal, which, it might be... Scandal might be one of those roles where we have to go to one of the guy Muppets.
Ooh, that's a toughie. Because,
do like a Shakespeare kind of thing where, you don't have to be the same... sex as a character in order to play.
Right,
the
true.
Character.
And
You could.
But it's funny, you're saying Miss Piggy. That's perfect because she's got the.
Well, she's
thing.
perfect as
and
Jeanette.
She's perfect as Jeanette because also you have the Miss Piggy freak out where she bashes people across the room.
Right.
That's when Ben.
But that whole scene in the beginning, where it played out, where she's like seeing things all kooky and all that stuff, you could so see Miss Piggy pulling that off.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of another female Muppet, dude.
Yeah, well, that's why I went to Janice from the band. We'd have to. I mean, obviously, we'd have to cut her hair and doll her up like Scandal. We really have to make her look a little tougher too.
Yeah.
Well,
see, Janice is the hippie peace chick. So
I know.
It's,
But I think Dr. Teeth could, bring out her evil side. But that's just me. Fozzie as Bane. I know you're probably saying at first, like, Fozzie, really? Although in a weird way, I could see him as Ragdoll. Which is what I'm thinking too, because, come on. You could see Ragdoll throwing out a waka waka. Now, admit it, you could.
Well, you
could see Fozzie putting on the boots.
Yeah. The first thing I thought of for Ragdoll was Animal. I know they don't have the same dialogue, but they definitely have the same personality.
That's a good point. Now, that takes me to, remember Sweetums, the oversized bearded guy? The big Muppet that looks like he's human, runs around the hallway? He could be Bane then.
Dude, that would work.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
That's definitely...
Because he's got that big... Because I started thinking through this, because when I started thinking maybe Fozzie as Ragdoll, I'm like, well, I need somebody for Bane then. Because you can't just leave that role uncast. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe Sweetums then. Zoot, the sax player, could be Deadshot. Because he was probably the coolest of the Muppets, didn't say much of anything. You put that little, mask on him with the eye and all that stuff, I could see him shooting people. So it could be Zoot.
Yeah.
Now, Beaker. This is interesting because I think Beaker could really just be Beaker. Because he really doesn't need a character to fit on Secret Six. I mean, come on, you have to admit you wouldn't think it odd that they could have a Secret Seven now featuring Beaker. His backstory could be that he snapped and killed Vincent B. Honeydew. That made him an instant candidate for Secret Six. And the rest of the Muppets really would have to audition at this point. We aren't just giving these parts away. This is a serious production. So...
So now, here's something I'm wondering. What about Kermit?
What about Kermit as what?
I was thinking Kermit could be Catman as well.
Are you saying, what, more than one Catman?
No, Kermit take the role from...
you know what we could do? We could have like a Muppet Battle Royal.
Ooh, yeah.
To see, put in our favorite candidates for Catman. They have to fight for it.
Yeah, see, I'm thinking Kermit would be a much better, Catman than Scooter.
What it is?
I do like your idea. I like your thought process.
Because Scooter there, that's one of the things. I agree with you on Kermit. Kermit's got the chops to play Catman, but I think Scooter's ready for the roles. I think what I'm saying. Yep. So you know what? That's an emotional response for me. Versus, and you're right. Kermit has the dynamic range. He could be a great Catman.
Well, what about Kermit for Deadshot? Could Kermit pull off Deadshot?
See, you know what the thing is? I'll say
Kermit
this, though, in defense... In defense though, of your Kermit as Catman, with his little, it's not easy being green, think of where Catman's at right now, talking about how it's not easy being Catman, with all that stuff.
They'll add, though, to Kermit being Deadshot. That would add to the whole Kermit, Miss Piggy, Deadshot, Jeanette relationship.
Oh, that's a good point for that casting.
I could definitely see Kermit slapping on the thing and, dropping the banjo and picking up two, wrist guns and just opening up on them.
See, I really like Zoot, though, so we got to put him somewhere. So we'll have to find another role for Zoot, but I'm okay with that. Zoot can just be, an extra. He could fit in somewhere. You just got to have Zoot in there somewhere.
Hey, what about Zoot for Bane?
No, it's Sweetums. It's got to be Sweetums.
Okay.
Because think about that. I mean, you've got to have that big lumbering.
Yeah.
But I mean, playing off of Scandal. You know what? The role I'm really unhappy with is they need
Another
somebody
female.
for Scandal.
Yeah. I know. I can't think.
We
of
might need to go to one of the guys.
Yeah.
You know, so. I had this whole other plan to discuss a Secret 6 weekly called Secret 24. That's really what I was going to do. Because I was going to play off the DC Entertainment thing. What if it was Raging Bullets Entertainment, and this is one of my edicts? Now, we'd have to obviously clone Gail and Nicola and the whole team because I'd want them to be able to do this. But I actually had the team, and I'll do it real quick because I don't want to spend too much time on that because we already did. The Muppet thing came off of the Cookie Monster comment, and I decided, okay, let's go with that instead. Now, the Secret 6 team would stay the same. Because I love the current team, so they would stay the same. But during the other weeks, we would have the other Secret 6 teams filling in. And here would be the other teams. The Thanagarian that was mentioned in the Newsarama article with Gail, that interview discussion there. Obviously, I'd love to see that character, so that's a for sure. And Carter and Kendra right now, because of what's going on with them. And I'll be honest with you, whether they're Black Lantern, Carter, or Kendra, or just, they're revitalized and brought back. And that would be it. For the other 3 weeks, that would be the rest of the Secret 24. Why? Because they would count as the other, 18. Because they're Thanagarians.
You sad little man.
So that'd be Secret 24.
Yeah.
But back to the book. The Wonder Woman and Catman moments were brilliant. And these, honestly, emotional bits like that, we've talked about Diana. Diana has this way about her that I firmly believe in the right situation, she could make the vilest villain question himself. The right one in the right situation, like Catman here, he's an interesting character because we know he has this pseudo-heroic side. He has other issues that will prevent him from being a good guy, but out of the whole team, there was something about him that makes him feel a little regret for his actions. We've seen that dynamic played off here.
She inspires you to be your best. She inspires, it's, the whole, during Trinity, they had that whole look at who the Trinity was, and they talk about how Superman's the savior who comes in and rescues you. Well, Diana's the one who motivates you to, be more than what you can. Save yourself. Come on, you can do it. Fight on. And it's that mentality, that just natural essence of her that makes you just want to be a better person. That's, one of the cool things about Diana. And I was glad to see it make it even she's in a beat down stage right now. She's been massively drugged, had massive blasts from the Banshee. She's hurting, but she still is Diana. She's still able to just reach out and just that little touch of the shoulder, just give him that look like, come on.
I saw their eyes. There is no one else. They're going to try to kill me. You must free the Amazons. Now, here's my question. Did you take this as Diana sacrificing herself? She didn't ask for herself to be saved. She asked for them to be saved. That was a selfless act, right? I mean, is that how you took that?
Oh,
yeah, that fits her. I loved it. I mean, it was really, really cool. When you were talking about Catman there with Wonder Woman, one of the things I like about her, too, her warrior code. I mean, without even warrior code, the way she was raised as a warrior, you would be raised to get to know your opponents, to know their personality, to know them inside and out, know their emotions, know all of those things. The great thing about Diana is she can bring it to multiple levels. She can get to... And I really felt that she recognized something that she could connect to in Catman.
Yeah.
That was emotional, real. She knew that there's a heart in there somewhere to latch onto, and she nailed it. That moment, I was totally wow.
Yeah. I tell you, one of the things we always gush about is attention to detail.
Oh, yeah.
And this sequence, when Diana's passed out, not only does she not have the boots on, but if you look at the very bottom corner of the panel, you'll see the boots crumpled up, off to the side after Ragdoll has taken them off. I loved that. I was sitting there, and I saw yes!
Because he was working it.
Yeah. Hey, you got to work it, man. Yeah.
In Vermont, I would not want to be the guy stalking Scandal's girl.
Oh.
Here comes Randall. He's a berserker.
Oh, my God.
So fitting here. Because no one for either of us, but each other forever, Randall. And when I was looking at that whole sequence of events, I'm like, this guy so deserves a beatdown.
Yeah. I'm scared about. I'm honestly scared about this because there's two ways this is going to go. Either Scandal's going to get to her in time, and Randall's going to get a beatdown, or something bad is going to happen to Leanna, and Scandal's going to do a beatdown. I'm thinking this. There's only one way this is ending is with Randall being hurt really bad.
What's your preference?
Oh, I am definitely rooting that Scandal gets there in time.
I do too.
Before something really bad happens to her.
Because I'm liking this.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's going to happen.
And I wouldn't be disappointed if it went the other way,
Right.
because either way we're going to get great storytelling out of it. Because I'm loving this exploration of Scandal. That's the great thing about these characters being only in this book, is the fact that they can really dig deep. I'm not saying that they can't appear elsewhere, but you can really develop these characters and dig in deep to them and who they are and why they are. And
Well, we've been getting some great stuff on Scandal. Just, if you go back a couple issues when they first introduced Leanna and she was dressed up in the knockout outfit and she pops out. I'm just sitting there. I still remember seeing that issue going, oh my God, she's just going to gut this poor girl like a fish. Right. And she didn't. And you saw the love that she had, and they keep bringing that out when they had the date between the two of them. There is more coming, out of Scandal. There's more to her than just the calculated killer, the mercenary for hire. There is, like with Catman, there is that hero inside there. There is that good person, and we're now getting more issues and more exploration of her past, that we're seeing exactly why Scandal is Scandal. It's not an easy life growing up with Vandal Savage as your dad. So
could Scandal be Kermit? It's not easy being Scandal.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Hold on, you know what? Kermit could definitely pull it off.
Yeah, so maybe that's where because I do like Scooter as Catman.
Yeah.
Although we said Kermit, though, as Deadshot.
Deadshot, which could work,
But
too.
that brings Zoot back.
Yeah.
The plaque on the wall for storing her blades, though, I thought was really cool. That's, again, those little tiny details. You could have just shown her room and that the answering machine was there, but to actually see the empty holders there for her blades. This is that 30 seconds to live. Guards of slaves. Enough time to call a loved one or to pray, perhaps. Probably not both. Talk about a cinema-like dramatic build in that sequence. The lieutenant's eyes meet Scandal's as he holsters his weapon without a word and calls his wife. Just a wow moment, because they were all looking at him to say, what do we do here? Do we take her down? What do we do? We have another guy already on his knees praying at that point. Just intense. And we'll talk about later, that cell phone comes back later in the issue.
I love this scene.
Yes.
This was, for me, the line of the issue, and it actually goes into my Hall of Fame for potential epic moments of the year for me. When we do our Raging Oscars at the end of the year, this is now in the running for, moment of the year, just because I absolutely loved it. And it's stuff you said about just not only the line, the power of that line was amazing. And I sat there and I ate it up, but it's that next page where you see the two eyes meeting and that artwork.
I want to see this on HBO.
Oh my God. Just, meshing, we said before, Secret Six isn't just about wonderful writing, which is what it is. It's also about this beautiful artwork that fits. This is a writing creative team that is firing on all cylinders, gelling together. They have these moments.
Look how well Dexter's doing on Showtime.
Yes.
This show could do well as an HBO or Showtime series instantly.
In a heartbeat.
I mean, that's the perfect venue for this, because it needs to be, I'd rather see it there than as a film. Where it's because
you could build and you can develop the characters over time.
That's one of the joys of this series, is the development of the character. I mean, I wouldn't say, well, they're making a Secret Six movie, shucks. No, I would be thrilled with that as well. But I mean, my ideal, I would love to see this in that type of venue. Muppet, even Muppets. When Jeanette and Bane talk about her time in Kilmainham Gaol, and I'm probably butchering that too, it shows some distinct differences in his upbringing, because she talks about how the eye was meant to be the eye of the Lord watching them, even in their sleep. How they were never allowed to speak, even to themselves. That's the interesting part. Talk about being horrible, isolated, and alone. You can't even keep yourself company. And the funny part about that is, a lot of times that talking to yourself is a way to keep yourself sane, or at least some semblance of sanity in those situations by talking yourself through it. You can't even do that. Bane finds security in that, though. He envies her, and it just shows. I think we have seen what this did to Jeanette in glimpses throughout the series so far, from her deviance straight on through to what she woke up like in this. And even when she was with Deadshot and they were overlooking the cliff, she's just this really multifaceted character. And I love that we see that I felt that there was a distinction there between Bane and Jeanette, where Bane was envying that and she wasn't.
Oh, no. She definitely, it was, it's funny because you mentioned how you talk to yourself, to keep, sanity. There was a period where I was living by myself down, south of us. Mm-hmm. And there were nights when I actually did not say a single word the whole night, because I'd come home from work, I'd sit there, I'd cook, I'd watch TV, and it was just, and I would sit there, and by like the end of the night, I'd say, wow. And that would be the first words I spoke for multiple hours. And there were times when, like, I'd do a weekend where I'd actually see how long I could go without speaking. And, it's weird. You're just sitting in your, apartment, sitting in your house, sitting in wherever.
Did you like a happy dance if you succeeded?
No, it was just one of those
Was
things.
it like a goal? Did you, get a prize?
No, you just see what would happen, and it was weird because I'd turn off TVs, have absolutely nothing running, and just would sit in the darkness and not say a word and not just it was weird. I admit it was weird.
I got to ask you this: did you pretend that you were competing against somebody else that wasn't there?
Well, no, I didn't. I didn't have to do.
I'm totally teasing. I just all these thoughts were running through my head as you're explaining this. I'm like, you've never told me this before. This is interesting.
It was part of my time.
I've learned something new about the sense. I mean, I remember when you lived there, but we never had these deep discussions before about.
It's weird. If you can, unplug your refrigerator. Now, if you have stuff that's going to spoil, don't do this, obviously. But if you can, you unplug the refrigerator. Because the refrigerator, without realizing it, makes a lot of noise. Uh-huh. Especially if you shut everything else off and you just sit. I was sitting in a darkened room. I unplugged my refrigerator.
Why did you find you wanted to tell the refrigerator to shut up?
Actually, yeah, I was getting a little annoyed. I was getting annoyed because the refrigerator was making too much noise.
Well, you stop it.
Yeah. So I went and I unplugged the fridge, and it was weird. It was cool. It was like one of those kind of like meditation type, deep trances things. It was one of those definite moments that it would be. Mm-hmm. When Joe and I would go hunting, a friend of ours, I'd go hunting with him, mm-hmm. and you would have these moments just where it was just complete black darkness outside, and you're just laying in this field, looking up at a complete starry sky, and it's just this quiet, peaceful, calm moment. So
I love that your solace was you needed a vacation from your fridge.
Yeah.
It just won't stop.
Come on, be quiet.
It's chilling things all the time.
Hey, the refrigerator constantly kicks on, and it's something you wouldn't notice the noise.
Right.
But when you have no other sounds around you, it does. It's weird.
And you think it would just stop every so often and let food,
get warm.
Yeah. Oh, God. Of course, at this point, they discover that Scandal has vanished. It's kind of like your fridge.
Yeah.
And it's a regular suburb with gun turrets. That stuff with Deadshot there where he's talking about, Smythe is explaining, or Smith. Is it Smythe or Smith?
It's a Smythe.
Is it Smythe?
It should be Smith, but he's a fancy lad, so I'm going to call him Smythe.
He's rather a fancy lad. Yeah, he can be either way. That's fine for him. But okay, so let's say Smythe at this point. So it's one or the other. I know one of them's wrong, but he's talking about how wonderful this place is going to be with slides and a water park and all this other thing for the employees that live there. Now, here's the interesting thing. It's this massive prison, but it's like this amazing place on the outside. Imagine being a captive with all that going on around you. I mean, talk about torture. Anyway, Catman left, they find out at this point. No one ever seems to want to hunt down and kill their friends these days. That ragdoll bit. And then he comes back, then right after this we go to Scandal. And this is the part, this is probably another one of my favorite segments.
Oh, God,
this place will be the ruin of us. Talk about issues from childhood. And this really plays into later a lot of what I thought was so cool about character development of this. Vandal's certainly not Daddy of the Year. Your daughter, my 9-year-old daughter, time to put away childish things. If you run the gauntlet to the end, your mother lives. Now,
I tell you,
do you think anyone made it? I think it's an impossible task. I don't think you can.
Yeah, I tell you, it was, for me, first question I had in my head was, the mother already dead? I think so, yes. I think Vandal already killed the mother, so just knowing that his daughter, there's no way the daughter would make it through the first time. And then, but just after they do the beatdown, and they stop her, and he stops the beating, and he goes, and that's when he gives her the blades. I love that line, because he's like, it was just fatherly advice, Vandal Savage style, you know? You failed because you thought of your enemies as obstacles to run from. Enemies are not obstacles to run from. They are vermin to be crushed, disemboweled, and mutilated, and their families to be killed to the last child. You're shorter than they are. I suggest aiming for the crotches and bellies. Twist after each puncture. I was like, oh my God. That right there is a definite statement of why she's kind of messed in the head. 9 years old, and this is what she's taught. This is where she's coming from. And this was the beginning of it.
And talk about a mind game, though. He has her convinced that she screwed up and got Mom killed.
Yeah, Mom's dead because
and
of
she's
her.
apologizing for that, which is interesting. So she's not bitter at him for doing it. She's feeling that she failed.
She failed.
Yeah. This place will destroy everything we are. And I think she means beyond just the Secret Six. I think her childhood sequence was meant to show us that some events you participate in take away a piece of yourself that you can never recover. You can't allow yourself to lose your personal code. Even Ragdoll has one. Of course, I think he keeps it in his dowry that was mentioned in previous issues, but there is a point there. Even with these villains, we've seen them achieve, disgust over many things that show that level of ethics. I'm coming, mother.
Yeah.
She's reliving the gauntlet in her mind as motivation to carry on in insane odds. To get in her head here is really incredible.
Yeah, it's funny. We've talked a lot of times about courage and valor, and we say how we would like to think that we would, step up and rise up to the occasion. I tell you, if I was one of those guards and she gave me that 30 seconds to live, gentlemen, speech, my answer would be, feet, don't fail me now. I have 30 seconds to run.
With the sound effect, too?
Oh, my God. I'd be, I would zoom out of there as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah.
I'd keep running and say, oh, my God, let me live, I wouldn't be praying, I'd be running, because that's just try to get as far away from them, hope to God that that she gets bored with killing everybody, or I get far enough away that she doesn't see me as a threat.
Belinda's phone call again. Great Hitchcock off screen there. Are you all right, Floyd? Should I do a dance to amuse you? Followed with, I like the killing part, but not the no dancing part. And it goes back to that reputation again in that sequence with Floyd and Ragdoll. Another example of code. I think the question posed here is, what do you want your reputation to be? Or maybe on a different level, what are you willing to sacrifice about yourself for your reputation? It'll be interesting to see how Floyd rolls with all this, because I could see him going either way.
Yeah, I liked how he was sitting there, and he did let the idea enter his head to kill everybody in that room.
Right.
And then just leave.
Right.
He would be done. That would be a walk-away moment, but
I'm interested to see which way where do you think he's going to go on this?
I don't know.
I'd
like to think he's going to stay with the Six, and he's going to switch sides, and he's going to join them and all that stuff, but this could very easily be the end of Deadshot in Secret Six, or maybe this could be the setup why we have this solo issue of him later on that's written by Ostrander. So this could be...
Ostrander?
Yeah, what did I say?
Ostrander.
Sorry.
I know, you get caught up in the emotional moment. I do that all the time. The last two episodes, I've had Porky Pig syndrome at various points on the show, which are kind of funny.
The other thing that also runs through my head is, you think about it this way. Deadshot's code is very simple. He had a contract to come out there, and so far he is honoring that contract to the letter.
Sure.
Now, recently, Smythe just gave him the ultimatum saying, hey, you have 1 hour to hunt down and kill your friends. Now, if Smythe were to break that deal by, say, releasing Grendel early, guess what? All bets are off now. Deadshot wouldn't have broken the contract. Smythe did, because Smythe added the addendum saying you have 1 hour or we're releasing the monster. They released the monster.
Whether or not they actually know Smythe
or not, doesn't matter.
That was still right.
That right there so to Deadshot, that could very easily be the factor that breaks the code.
Interesting.
Because Smythe broke the contract.
I didn't even think of that.
Not Deadshot. And those are the two ways, those are the different ways I'm thinking it could go with him.
Bane, Artemis, and Jeanette talking about going back for Scandal, but also that they should honor buying her time to finish their goal of freeing prisoners. My two favorite words here, and I don't know, this one just, with all the Ragdoll stuff, with how cool it was, I switched.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming. You knew the mole was going to be there, but when you actually see it in presentation, interesting that Catman has already freed the prisoners.
Yeah.
The Banna are the war criminals sent there by the United States government. Now, here's an interesting bit. Is this treason? They are war criminals that were
sent there for
by the United States government. Is this considered treason?
No.
Okay.
Because this wouldn't be considered treason. I don't think. I wouldn't call it treason, but
Okay.
I don't know. The government may.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
It's Let me think here. See, treason is defined as,
And I'm not an expert there. I'm throwing it out there. I'm not throwing it out there saying that I think this is fact. I'm asking the question as a genuine question.
Yeah. See, treason basically is an act against an overt or indirect action against the government.
Wouldn't freeing war criminals on this level that attacked the United States be considered an act of treason?
That could definitely make them enemies of the United States very easily. Because you think about it, if someone were to go
and I was thinking along those lines.
As we're talking, I'm thinking out loud here. If someone were to go down to Guantanamo and free, current Al Qaeda and Taliban and various, prisoners various, suspects, prisoners, however you wish to refer to them as, if someone were to go down there and free them, that whoever that would be, they would be definitely an enemy of the U.S. So we're looking at a potential of the Secret Six being enemies of the state.
Right.
Which could, here's the other side is, would the U.S. want to admit that they did this? Is this this is a dirty little secret.
Oh, it is. You're right.
They're not going to want
tricky.
to be public either. So this is a kind of a thing where we keep,
on the next Morgan Edge. Edge of reason.
It could happen. Ooh, yeah.
Do you still so badly want to pick a side, Blake? And wow. Okay, if you free evil Cookie Monster, you deserve to have your head bitten off.
Oh, yeah.
Baldy! Yum, 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 yum.
Yeah. Dude, I tell you, think about the Grendel. Grendel is the Beowulf villain. So this is a powerful creature. But we're seeing definitely an intelligent side to this creature. So this is going to be something that I want to see the fight down. I want to see the
clarification again for my casting on that. Cookie Monster has probably one of the most powerful stomachs out of the Muppets.
See, but Cookie Monster is Sesame Street. So if we're pulling in Sesame Street,
there's still Jim Henson.
Yeah, but I'm saying
there's the Jim Henson banner.
Yeah, but
Oh, you're saying as far as for our other casting,
what about Elmo for Ragdoll? They're both evil, psychotic creatures.
I still like, there's something about Waka 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 that I like. Although Elmo could say it.
Elmo could do it. And I do like Animal. I do like Animal. I do kind of like
as
Animal.
Ragdoll though.
See, its only thing is Animal doesn't have a good enough vocabulary that Ragdoll does have. So that is always the factor.
Although wait, that Elmo voice for Ragdoll would be perfect. Yeah, that would actually kind of
come on. Elmo has
yeah.
Hey, voice.
Maybe could we make Bert Scandal then? Bert.
So Ernie would have been knockout?
No, it would just need Bert. I just like Bert.
Oh, okay.
So it's not even so much that I actually think Bert's great casting for that role.
Oh, okay.
It's just a chance, like now that we're opening up Sesame Street, to put Bert in there. Kind of like a Zoot. I'm stuck on Zoot being in there in some capacity. Although I still really like Zoot as Deadshot.
Yeah, Zoot could work as Deadshot because he's got that that cool style to him. Like,
Scandal, I'm really non-committal on at the moment. We'd really have to do a casting call. I think a Muppet casting call. Yeah. They'd have to all just kind of come in and really try out. And although Oscar would make a great Vandal Savage.
Oh God, we got casting right there. And I'm thinking, what about Gonzo as Scandal?
You think so?
I don't know. I think he could maybe. You've seen some of his flash. Yeah, I could see him with the blades.
You could.
It's just that whole. I don't know. Yeah, I think he could pull it off.
What was the name of the chicken that he really liked?
Camille.
So maybe, and the story, the premise could change. Oscar has Camille killed.
Yeah.
And that would be the way that Gonzo then becomes, gets the blades. And it's Gonzo's fault, though, because Gonzo didn't make it through the gauntlet. And that would be a great way to put in other Muppets, because each of the ones with the bats would be other Muppets.
Yeah.
The ones that we couldn't use, I mean, this would be great.
Dude.
Wow, Muppet Secret 6. And you know what the sad part is? I would so buy.
Oh my God, in a heartbeat.
Like I'm joking about it now, but if they released that, I would be talking about how it's the greatest thing in the world, and I would get it. I would be like, dude, we got to get it on Blu-ray with the extra special, like the Gonzo case and the Gonzo is Scandal case. DC's got to work out a deal with Boom.
Yeah.
I want to see this. Because Boom's doing those great Muppet books right now that are they're really cool. So I don't know. Anyway, Secret 6, great stuff.
Nice work, Atom. What are these characters up to?
I want to talk casually, if we could, Jim, about Wonder Woman number 35. I'm a big fan of this series, but one of the things I really enjoyed about this issue was not only did it take a lot of depth towards the end of the issue as far as further developing Wonder Woman and after effects of the many reveals during the battle with Genocide, but it takes some time to show the hero reaction to some of the swag that we all purchase.
I know.
Especially like anime versions of themselves, like Wonder Woman, happy, magic, fun, sword girl, sexy, fight, fight. I'm a big fan of manga and anime, and I don't get to read as much of it now as I used to, but Ranma in particular was a series that I just found particularly hysterical, and I'm slowly collecting all of the volumes of it, but it was really the anime of Ranma that I got into, and then just, you and I had our friend Rob Chalizzi. We used to watch a lot of anime with him, and I had a blast with that. But so it's fun to see their reactions to the very, like the Invisible Jet playset, and you see the different versions of the Bat Cycle and Superman, and it's
Captain
great.
Carrot.
Yeah,
There's Captain Carrot there. I saw that. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat.
Green Arrow, and it's really cool to kind of see the reaction to the whole thing. But while they're in Tokyo and kind of going underground with this Fight Club circuit that they get in, to see them, in these outfits, and how uncomfortable Diana feels being dressed. I love her with the heels on the shoe and how she's almost rubbing her feet when she's wearing them, because it is. It's an interesting debate that comes up with her every so often: flats or heels with Wonder Woman. Well, do you care?
I say combat boots, more flats than heels, and definitely I would rather see a female superhero, and this goes to any female superhero, with a comfortable type of work type boots. We're seeing in Batgirl, those boots that just, when she kicks you in the face with it, it leaves a big old imprint and on your face. I definitely prefer that with female, just because it would make it more functional, make it more actual thing.
Look at the little Prusty cover, though.
Right.
You've got like you can actually see the treads on the sides.
Yeah, I love these boots.
Yeah.
These are the type of things. Yeah.
Because I don't want them changed, beyond that. I like that iconic look. So, I have no problems with, like, little tweaking. Because talk about a character, Superman, how many tweaks has he gone through? Batman, how many tweaks has he gone through? So, it's great that you go through the tweaks that you don't lose. There's certain things with Diana that I think are necessary for that iconic nature and feel of the character. But this tweak, I like.
Yeah, there's, like, I'm actually more of I enjoy seeing when she puts on the battle armor, and it's a Wonder Woman battle armor. And if it was any other character in the DCU, I would say that should be her permanent uniform. But with her, I like the bathing suit. It's the classic traditional outfit that she's always had, and I want to see her continue wearing that. Whereas if it was any other character, I would say, hey, give more of a full body armor. Like with the Supergirl debate that happened with getting rid of the midriff, going away from skirt to shorts, that type of stuff. I like those type of changes. I would actually like to see Supergirl in more of what we saw Superwoman wearing. Like that full outfit, something like that.
And I disagree with you on that because of the icon. Like, I more agreed with when you were saying I don't mind that they did little tweaks to Supergirl's outfit because they showed some of her maturity and her maturing. I loved that, but I wouldn't want to see her adopt I liked Superwoman's outfit a great deal, so don't get me wrong. But I liked the idea that Superwoman was a different character. I like Supergirl having, very similar to my debate, my commentary about Wonder Woman, there's certain things that are iconic about the look of Supergirl. Right. I liked what Michael Turner did when he brought her back because of where that character was at then. I liked how Jamal Igle and crew
are tweaking it, shifting it a little
to
bit.
show her growing maturity
Yeah.
and her growing respect for the S and what it means on Earth versus it just being the family name.
Right.
We're not saying there's anything wrong with the family name, but it does have more. There's a lot more to that symbol. So, I think Wonder Woman fits in the exact same way. Now, and I will admit that I'm not going to be a hypocrite here. Growing up, watching Wonder Woman, I never had an issue with the heels. I think there's been storytelling where authors have done a great job of telling ways, using the heels in a way that, like, you're like, okay, that's kind of cool the way that they use it. But I'm into, right now, very functional clothing. We've talked about on the show, just I really like artists that are doing outfits that don't look like they're painted on. They look like there's a functional nature to them. I don't know, it's just something I'm into at the moment. So this kind of fits that whole vibe as far as where my head's at and what I'm enjoying at the moment anyway. I just thought it was kind of cool to bring up, and I loved her rubbing her feet there, I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and to be honest, I know a couple of the ladies I work with, they'll have, they'll wear the shoes and the high heels and stuff like that. And occasionally I hear them complain about their feet. And I'm like, why are you wearing it? And I hold up my, my tennis shoes going, this is why I'm glad I'm a guy. I can wear tennis shoes. I don't have to wear uncomfortable shoes just because they make the outfit, so it's, that's something that gets to me that I never understood that with the female hero side.
The Ted Grant drinks poster. I love little details.
Little
like
things
that.
in the background.
His endorsements, which you would think in a Fight Club they'd have that. Also, I want to talk about Sergeant Steele, Dr. Psycho, in the Dr. Psycho body.
Yeah.
How does Dr. Psycho feel about himself? Like, okay, he did this obviously to humiliate Sergeant Steele, but...
He's humiliating himself as well.
I mean, so it gives you an idea how Dr. Psycho feels about himself, that he would do this to himself.
Yeah.
In that kind of way, because I couldn't see myself, like, if somebody else was in my head, and even if I was trying to stick it to them by trapping them in there like that, I could not look at myself being demeaned like that. I mean, that would, you look in the mirror, that's you. So I could not do that to that level. So that was an interesting little...
See, I'm going on a limb here, but I'm going to say that he's got some issues. Dr. Psycho's got a couple issues, one or two maybe, and one of them may be self-loathing issues. There may be, he may have a little problem with how he sees himself. He may not be little happy camper with who he is, and that's possibly part of his issues with why he wants to do the very evil and nasty things to people. So I can kind of see and appreciate why they did that with him, but it's. You think about it, I don't know. You're saying how if you were in, depending on what body I was in, is whether I would humiliate. I could see myself kind of doing what Dr. Psycho is doing. If I was like in a, this...
Here's the funny part. I think out of the two of us, it maybe shows some of my own personal insecurities. You, I think, would be a lot more comfortable doing that if somebody was trapped in your body to yourself than I would be.
Yeah, see, I could, and depending on which body I was in. Now,
and I don't mean that as an insult on you.
No,
I think there's a definite distinction between the two of us on there. I don't think I could do that. Or maybe it's my own vanity or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what drives that. But I know for myself, I know myself well enough to know that I would not be comfortable doing that.
Yeah, see, if I was like in a body that I thought was physically better than my current form, like if I was in a professional athlete's body or, I was, pick anybody out there. Throw me and LeBron James switch places. I'm in LeBron's body now. I would just really mess with because LeBron is huge, powerful athlete, and there's me, the little pudge ball here. I would have fun with just laughing at LeBron sitting there. I'd have the ball over his head. Remember when you used to be able to jump this high?
Would you still try to sing Thriller?
And you know what? I bet you if I was in his body, I could probably pull it off.
No.
I think I've seen his.
He's got a
acting,
recording studio. Doesn't
He's got
he?
a recording studio. He's multifaceted, multi-talented.
Oh wait, dude,
person.
you so need to make that happen. He's got a recording studio.
Yeah, I know.
We could use that.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm here with LeBron Segulin, LeBron of the Whatnot Segulin. You got to take one for the team. Make that happen.
Dude, that's not taking one for the team. Step up. Come on. I'd do that in a heartbeat. What are you talking about?
Although it would be fun to do that in this little room with you being much taller. It's harder for him to fit in that chair.
Okay, Sean, it's time to change now. I'm a multi-billionaire. Yeah, I'm not sitting on a folding metal chair.
You'd be a multi-billionaire with your own recording studio, but I'd still insist on recording here just to have you in that chair. Wow. I have issues too, apparently. I loved this bit where Diana, they talk about the unpredictable nature. The lasso's been corrupted due to what's happened with genocide, and it's almost like, what is it going to take for Diana to fully clean it? How is she going to get that out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that unpredictable nature of it is coming from that. And the way it reacts to Steele, she knows. And honestly, if Steele were asked, don't you think Steele would say she was right to do this? Because Steele would not want to be left like this.
Oh, God, no. Yeah, definitely.
Knowing Steele.
Yeah, this is something Steele would want her to do. Take the risk, and even if it had killed him, that's something he would want. He'd have to be freed.
But this is like torture, and to watch that, I loved Dinah's reaction because I thought it was very human, very real, and added to the intensity of like, wow, she's ready to pull the scream out on Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Somebody who we've clearly seen throughout these two issues that she respects, she considers a friend. The moments that they're having together shows that there's a relationship there of...
There's that close, and it's not just even, it's a close friendship, a trust, and you see her, even trying to, Dinah's trying to give Diana some advice and some help, and help seeing she's dealing with issues. She's got some stuff that is going on, and like, hey, I'm here for you, and just being that confidant and companion type thing, and she's ready to drop the scream on her. I was reading that going, oh my God, but it's so fit that Diana would say, this is it, we gotta free him now. It's part of that code. She understands warrior to warrior. This is something that Dinah is one heck of a kick, she kicks some serious butt out there. She's a true hero and a really talented fighter, but she is not a warrior. There is a difference between the two. Like, Bruce is definitely a warrior. Clark is a hero and can fight, but not always a warrior. Diana's a warrior. It's like, you gotta look, there's different classes of the people. They have that, it's that warrior code. Anyone who is the warrior would have done exactly like that. They would have said, yes, this is the right thing to do. You gotta throw it out. You gotta make this happen. Even if it kills him, he would not want to be trapped like this. Did
we see on camera yet what happened to him? Like on this level of detail? Because we have found you, and we see all these little shots of flashbacks of how he swapped bodies. Did we actually see that? I don't think we did.
This is the first time.
Yeah. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, with the whole spell and the breakdown, and because
I was looking at that, I'm like, I don't remember seeing that before, and I think that's a very cool way to reveal it. So at this point in time, later on, he's already got his memory back at this point when he's announcing this fight.
Yeah.
I like seeing Roulette here because we're seeing her right now in the Justice League story that wrapped up Justice League story by Len Wein, which I'm really enjoying. But she's also, do you know she's going to appear in Smallville? I don't know how close it's going to be this level, but I thought I read that she's one of the characters that they're toying around with having appear this season in one of the episodes as Roulette.
They had that Fight Club type issue episode. I keep saying issue episode.
They're interchangeable.
They're interchangeable
on the show,
Oh, come on! But they had that, where they showed Clark, duking out with who's he fighting? Was it Kane?
I think so.
Yeah, it was Kane that he was fighting. This isn't a new concept. They could definitely bring her in for another episode of that type magnitude, or who knows, even little games. What will happen to the Red Blue Blur?
It was funny when we see their latest fight going on in the arena. Dr. Psycho totally set this up because he wanted to see for sure if his suspicions were correct.
Yeah,
that it was Diana under the outfit there, especially with knowing her like he does. This would be something he would get a thrill out of. I love though that Diana and Dinah have kind of one up to the situation here because they know something he doesn't.
Yeah, well, they set it up. One thing is a cool just usage of Steele in itself. He's not gonna, now that he knows who he is, he's not gonna sit back and do nothing. He's going to get active, and he's going to be part of the game. And yes, he's not in his real body. He's in this other body that he's got to deal with. There are limitations, so it's part of the deception side of it. He's a super spy. He is, granted, he's head of this agency, but before that, he was just the regular field agent, just like the rest of them. And the first rule of being a spy is deception. So he's going to play the part. Let them think he's still, their little puppet's still in control. And then when he needs to, that's when he strikes out. And I like seeing that we're seeing that side of him.
Diana with Pele, and one of the things that I really liked how they handled this was, it goes back to Kane Milohai. I'm probably butchering that name. But I really liked when Diana pledged herself to him. This didn't end there. His death did not mean the end of that. Now, all of a sudden, there's his daughter, Pele, is in the game right now, and she wants revenge. And she's out to take it. But while this is going on, and what I really enjoy about seeing Pele being a part of this is we didn't leave Dinah doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I loved the trade-off of scenes with Dinah where we get to see her really step up. I love Gail Simone writing Dinah Lance.
Yes.
Loved it in Birds of Prey. It's great to see her back doing this again. And just this character has become so cool to read in the DCU. Green Arrow Black Canary, I am just as interested in reading about her every month as I am Ollie.
Yeah.
And that's not diminishing Ollie. That's where Dinah's at now.
Yeah.
And that's because of what Gail's done with this character.
And it's funny because minutes ago I said she's not a warrior. She's she can kick butt. And right here we see the fighter in her. We see that she's able to, it's a mixed match of she didn't just open up and start screaming. She's punching, kicking, throwing something, and then bam, hits a scream.
I gotta seriously think about becoming a florist again. Just a great bit right there. But you killed all goodness in my world. So, Diana's obviously going to be pledging herself to Pele. Yeah. And in some way trying to make things right, at least in Pele's sense. But with Pele's state of mind right now,
that's not a good...
What did Diana...
She made a pledge to her. Now,
right.
First thought that pops in my head is the pledge to kill the person who killed, to retrieve her father's heart. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing that pops in my head, and we know the father's heart is inside Ares. So, are we going to see not Ares?
Genocide.
No, it wasn't inside Genocide. It was inside.
No, that's right. I'm sorry.
The Olympian.
The Olympian. Yes, I take it back. No, you're right.
Achilles.
Yeah, the heart of the god was put in there. I'm getting my wires completely crossed. You're 100% correct.
So that's my first thought that pops in my head. That
I didn't. I guess why I wasn't
retrieve the heart.
And I guess why I was stumbling over that is I didn't think of the retrieving of the heart. I thought she was going to go after the one who killed her father to begin with. Zeus.
That's Zeus. Well, that could also be.
Yeah.
But I would say, honestly, the retrieving of the heart would be more of an impact, again, more of a jab to Zeus.
As opposed to trying to kill Zeus or take down Zeus, or
you think about it. This is Zeus's man. This is the man Zeus said, "Hey, this is going to be the new champion." If Pele really wanted to hurt Zeus, first thing you do is you retrieve the heart. By going after that, Diana's going to get the full wrath of Zeus. So Diana's going to have to take down Zeus. By saying going after Zeus, it won't necessarily break his heart. It'll just kill him. You want to break and destroy him. There's no good left in Pele. She is just pure heartbroken, pure anger, pure angst. She is, it's...
Is there going to be more than one thing, though? What amends would you have me make? Is it going to be one thing, or is it going to be a series of things? I don't know.
You think about Hercules. He had the, 7 labors? So there may be more than one thing. But I'm definitely thinking, that's going to be one of them. So I don't know.
After all, this is the start of the moments I've really wanted to see. I've wanted to see her and Tom. Basically, the greatest superhero in the DC universe,
yes.
Nemesis, from Cleveland, Sir Thomas. To have him once again, I love that he's from Cleveland.
I know that is just the greatest thing. Yeah. And it is funny because how sad are we that we hold on to that?
I'll never let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want him in his I don't want him in his own series because I like him in here so much. But it's real interesting because it is a betrayal. Imagine finding out that someone who you were so deeply into, you were so in love with, lied to you on some level, and there's a betrayal here.
Yeah.
And can they recover from this? And relationships go through this kind of... It's very real. Relationships go through this kind of stuff. And what will it take... is there something that can be done to level the playing field in this relationship or not? Can they find their way back? I don't know. I like following the drama, though, and he's a great supporting character either way. And I'm hoping that he remains a part of the storyline. With Steve, and obviously with Steve making more of an appearance, and Etta making more of an appearance in this, what is Tom's role going to be, and is that relationship going to still... I can't imagine that not being played with. So
he's not done yet. Yeah. And it's... You think about it. This is... because I've been trying to put it into a normal person type stance, and it's.
It is normal, though. Because, I mean, you take it out of this other world,
right?
This
It's
deep stuff. It is very real what's going on. Relationships go through stuff like this. Even when, because I don't think Diana in her head, she had an idea for what this relationship was going to be and why she needed it. And the circumstances have changed. So the question, and they have changed greatly, because she was doing this really as a way to repopulate.
Yeah, bring back the Amazons.
Right. So, which makes sense, what she was doing. But now that they're back, that really does change things. And does this relationship fit into where she wants to go, who she is? Does it fit for him? Is he going to be okay with the fact that this happened? Can she make him understand where she was coming from? And is it going to be enough for him and what he's looking for? I don't know. It's really, because he opened himself up. I mean, he really was willing to change a lot of the things about himself that he wasn't proud of, and maybe he never knew that he wasn't proud of, in order to rise up.
Yeah, to be the level of.
Yeah. But now his vision of her has been partially shattered.
Well, and to be honest, that's actually probably a good thing for the relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
She's no longer on the pedestal.
Yeah.
She's now down to earth. There is a human side to her. She's not just this.
It's terrible to have somebody on a pedestal in a relationship.
Yeah.
You've got to be on an even ground and a common ground. And if you don't find that, it's a terrible thing for it's. But this tells you. This talk tells you how much this relationship has come to mean and how well developed it is.
Yeah.
Is the fact that I'm really curious to see where this is going. I really care where this is going to go, and that's great character development. This is a fun book. The previews are up right now on newsarama.com for next week's. If you haven't, if you're listening to this during this week, of next week's issue 36 that's going to be released, so you can get kind of a teaser of where this conversation's starting to go. So I'm not going to talk too much about that now, but just other than that, it's there, and go check it out, because it's very cool to see. Just the first few. I love when they do that. I'm a big fan. Do you check any of that stuff? I think I tend to.
I do not as much as you do. I occasionally will go in. If you say, "Hey, check this out," like when I go home tonight, I will probably hop on Newsarama and see the sneak peek for next week's. So and I'm starting to get a little bit more comfortable online. With I actually have joined up with Gail's thing. I haven't posted anything on the blog on her forum yet. I have, though, Sensei Whatnot has been
over
created,
at comicbookresources.com. Gail has she's had You'll All Be Sorry, that forum that's been there for quite some time. But they just started up a Wonder Woman forum that she has got herself and her own moderators running the forum, and it's really cool so far. And it's real. During the week, I'm preparing for the show a lot. You're preparing for the show a lot. For me to have popped over to the forum, I've popped over to read things quite a bit. They have a wonderful thread going of Wonder Woman. If you're a Wonder Woman fan out there, they got a great thread going of just websites that are Wonder Woman related that people like. I love that kind of stuff, because it's one of the themes of our show is recommendations of things that are just plain cool. I love when listeners do that in our forum. They'll drop things down there. But she's really good at understanding what works about the internet. She's a big internet fan, and I really like that she doesn't shy away from the internet. She goes out of her way to say, this is what's great about the internet. This is how the internet can work great. Let's guide it that way. And I've always liked that about her forums and her whole attitude towards it, is that there are ways, because the internet a lot of times is frowned upon. I'm not talking about just in comics, in general, as just being a place just chock full of negativity for the sake of being negative. There's a difference between criticism and negativity for the sake of being negative. And I've always liked the fact that she's never been against criticism, but against people just throwing out snarky comments for no reason. People try to be. They think being critical means you can just be underhanded for no reason. And I think one of the great things I've liked about the forum community that we're a part of, and my favorite forums on the internet, it's not just ours, and it's not just the Comic Geek Speak one and all that, because that's been great, but other forums that I've been a part of, the ones that I stick around with, the ones that I will check out and read, even if I can't always post there, I keep going back to the ones where it's great, intelligent conversation. Not everyone has to agree there. That's not the whole point, but it's the one where people don't, as a way to try and win an argument, start digging into somebody for no reason. Yeah. And so I like that. So and the reason why this is relevant here is check out the Wonder Woman forum over at Comic Book Resources, especially if you like interacting with the writer directly, because she's a very active participant. And it's a great chance to be able to get your thoughts out there. And she goes around the internet and reads a lot, participates in a lot of places. So she's definitely someone that if you're a fan of her work and you've always wanted to interact with a comic book creator, do yourself a favor and check out her forum. It's very cool. They got a great community of people there, though.
Yeah.
Not just Gail. It's the whole community of people that participate there. So I wanted to give them a shout out because I think it's very cool.
And we have a link on our website, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it'll be back in this show notes again because we talked about it. So very cool.
Green Lantern, let you and I destroy that space junk.
Joining us for this segment is good longtime friend Chris Kendal. And Chris, welcome to Raging Bullets.
Hello, Sean. Hello, Jim.
We just got done watching the Smallville season premiere, which was, I don't know about you guys, that was absolutely outstanding. What did you think? I mean, that's my assumption, but where are you guys at? I know, Chris, you're a newer Smallville fan, but you've seen everything. You went back from the beginning and you watched the whole thing. How was this episode for you as far as a kickoff?
It's right up there with the previous seasons. Have to give you a lot of credit for kind of getting me turned on to it. One thing they've done I think a very good job over episodes. Great cliffhangers with the season finales, and then when they come right back, it keeps you wanting more each week.
Jim, what was your...
Oh, definitely got a co-sign on that one. To be honest, I would say this is probably one of the best of the season premieres, because that came in and it was just hitting like a hammer for me throughout that whole throughout watching the whole episode. I was like, oh my god, hey, is that, oh hey, that's, oh, and when you get jumped into it and you start thinking about, hey, is this going to be Kandor, is this going to be this, is this going to be that, what are they, and you start throwing out we were throwing out the hypotheses and what we think it's going to be, that kind of stuff. If the opening episode gets you excited about the season, that's a good thing.
Yeah, Chris, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on the show is just our history together as friends. You were actually, when I was originally planning on doing the show and thinking about doing a rotating cast every week, you were one of the people I was thinking of as far as being part of the rotating cast when we did it. Tell people what your history is with comics, because you're currently reading comics. Did you read comics as a kid, or is that something where...
Well, as a kid growing up, my favorite was... Like all kids, you watch the Saturday morning cartoons, going back to the Super Friends, and then after school, Channel 43. I remember watching the '60s rendition of the Spider-Man cartoons, and that was my favorite. And of course, with the advent of DVD over the years, you can go back and relive those childhood days. And I bought that DVD set when that Spider-Man '67 came out. As a kid, I was kind of in and out of comics and everything, and then of course over the years, with the advances in movie technology, and now the superhero genre is so awesome, to say the least. What they're able to do, and treat it like a serious medium, and really owe a big debt to you in terms of kind of your suggestions, and kind of got back into comics about 4 years now, going back to I think 2006, and there's a lot of good stuff out there, and I really appreciate you kind of turning me back onto it.
Now, you've been reading a lot of the great Marvel stuff. I knew that you were a big Marvel fan, and you've started dabbling heavily into DC. What are some of the things over on the DC end that you're reading now?
A lot of Batman, especially the Christopher Nolan's take on the Batman mythos has really spurred my interest in that character. Obviously, going back to 1989 with Tim Burton's Batman and being a huge Nicholson fan, and really got into that whole thing. And just now, the way the comic book hero movie it can be done in such a serious vein, the Batman movies have to rank right up there, 1 and 2, I think. And then you have the Spider-Man films, and then the Iron Man film, and it's just really, I think, really taken off. And getting a lot of people, I would consider myself a layperson, and getting you kind of interested in the characters, and then wanting to go back to, the source, the comic book. Started reading some Batman, and once you turned me on to Smallville, though, the Superman thing, I just, I go back and forth, but I think Superman is like our closest thing to a great pure like hero. And of course, my father would never, when I was growing up, always reminded me that he went to Glenville High School, and that Superman was created by two Glenville guys, Cleveland guys, and the Cleveland roots and everything. So that really, that's always a big part of it too.
So your dad always told you about that we have that history here?
Oh, absolutely. My dad bleeds Cleveland. Anything,
That's cool.
Anything. He was not particularly a big into comic books himself.
No, but I mean that's cool. Actually, I think that's more interesting that somebody who isn't was aware of that, because I do think it is something that, whether you're a comic fan or not, it's such a big character. You look at characters like Mickey Mouse and all that, everything we attribute to Walt Disney, and rightfully so, for how iconic those characters are, but I don't think we always hear the same thing about the comic book character. I think it's great that your dad would be aware of that the same way that somebody would who created Mickey Mouse, who created Donald Duck. I think it should be on that level. I think that's great that he did that.
Absolutely. And, recently what Superman just celebrated, I think, his, in terms of, in the comic books, 70 years.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. So, it's funny because, really, this is something that we as Cleveland are just now really starting to acknowledge the fact that Cleveland is the birthplace of Superman. And over the past years, it wasn't something that was too heavily talked about. When we were kids, I know it wasn't. I didn't know that. I really didn't learn that Siegel and Schuster were from Cleveland until we started doing this. When I started learning more about getting back into comics.
I did. There was an anniversary they celebrated for Superman years ago. When we were at that convention, remember the convention downtown? It was the Screaming Tiki, the one that they had downtown. They had that poster of Superman coming out of the phone book, that long rectangular one. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
That was from an anniversary here where they made a real... And that one flips around. One side is Clark Kent pulling off the shirt, pulling open the shirt in that iconic pose. The other side, when you flip it around, it's the same image with Superman coming out of the booth. But it was from an anniversary that they celebrated here in Cleveland. They made... a relatively big deal out of it. Not like it is now, and you're right, there is definitely a distinction now over what they're doing, and it's thanks to people like Brad Meltzer. I know Michael Sangiacomo here was involved. The Siegel, it's the Siegel family, was involved. There's all kinds of people now that are getting involved, and I'm not doing that justice either, because I know there's more people involved than what I'm saying at the moment. But I think it's great that here, there's street signs that have been changed, there's plaques that are going up, and I mean, that's like I said, and Walt Disney, I think, is a great example for that. When you look at the legacy of the Disney history and how those characters have contributed to not only pop culture but to film today and to storytelling, Superman has had that same contribution to the way stories are told now and the rich history of novelists. You take a look at Brad Meltzer, who is a novelist who's come into comics and written great comic stories in there, but he was heavily influenced by these characters, and you see that comic book influence in his novel work. And he's not the only one. There's a lot of, when you go through just various novels and literature, they're influenced heavily by these characters and the mark that they've made, and imaginative storytelling. And for some kids, this is their avenue into reading, in the sense that before they didn't care about books. I got kids this year in my classroom who are, they're passing around the comic book trades that I've got in there like crazy, and I'm loving that. I mean, it's so awesome to be sitting there watching it. And I got to be, it's not me putting it in their hand. They're on the shelf. They're making that choice because they see something that interests them. I don't go crazy with it where, I push it on them and force it on them or anything like that. I leave it up there as a choice because, I've got a ton of kids' literature up there on my shelves. I've got
50. You got like War and Peace, up there. So
I do.
They got to choose between War and Peace and comic books. Gee, that's a tough call.
Well, I try to put the most boring novels out in the world so they have to look at the comics. Yeah, you're right. It's more of a viral campaign. No, but seriously, I mean, I geek out more about the fact that those are materials that I put up there, and they gravitate towards them. They ask me hey, do you have more of these? Can we get more of them? Tiny Titans, which is one of the books that we rave about on the show, is one of the ones that gets passed around like crazy. Patrick the Wolf Boy Bone. I've got a Showcase Superman that's up there that's being passed around, the old Silver Age stuff. But I mean, those are types of things. It's great. It's kid friendly, and they're having fun doing it around. But what I like about it, here's the difference, though. They like to turn them into comic strips as well. So, but I mean, this is what these characters do. You know, Disney is great at this as far as sparking kids' imagination, where they go beyond when they watch a movie or a TV show or something like that. It goes beyond that, and the kids, you know, they'll write about those characters, they'll draw about them, they'll talk, you know, they'll play games involving those characters. It sparks the imagination. I'm all for anything that does that, but I don't think comic book characters have yet gotten that level of recognition. I think we're heading in the right direction for that, though, and a level that we probably, when we were kids growing up, we didn't see it on the level that we're seeing it now. It didn't get the respect that like a Disney character does, but now it is, finally.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of I think a lot of the storylines now very topical in terms of what's going on in the world today. You know, their spin on things. It just you know, anything that, you're right, anything that can get kids turned on to just, you know, other forms of media other than just, you know, kids get a bad rap, you know, because they do nothing but play video games and stuff like that. So if they're picking up something and they're reading, you know, God bless them. You know, just like just like what's her face with the you know, the Harry Potter books, getting a whole bunch of kids excited about
that opened
reading.
A huge door.
So anything that does that, I think, is great.
Yeah, Harry Potter made reading cool again, and it stayed. It actually, it's a lot easier now to get kids to try out books thanks to Harry Potter. It actually is a cool thing about that. I want to touch on something that I started talking about this with you before, and I kind of drifted off into it. We tend to do that from time to time.
Us?
But,
no.
Yeah. You were mentioning an author that you're really enjoying reading right now from DC is Jeff Johns.
Yes. His view on the Green Lantern character. I was never really a big Green Lantern fan, and I think what gave me a whole new respect for the Hal Jordan Green Lantern, I should say, is Jeff Johns' work, but also leading into that was Darwin Cook's New Frontier. Yeah. And I love how he was able to take you back into a period of our history and, you know, put the superheroes in there, and how, you know, Hal Jordan became, you know, the Green Lantern. And he's just a great writer, Jeff Johns. And I'm really anxious, you know, we're on the topic of the Superman thing, just picked up that issue 1 of that miniseries they're doing Secret Origin that he's writing. So I can't wait to get my hands on it and you know, and read it, because he's outstanding.
Jim and I are going to talk about it a little later. It's crazy good. It's crazy
it's awesome.
good.
We won't spoil it for you.
Yeah, that's why I said let's do the Smallville chat first so we don't ruin that for you.
It's outstanding.
It's really good. Back to Smallville. One of the things that I really liked about how this series kicked off is I was shocked to see him in the costume right away. There was this tease in the teaser that, you know, the black costume that we were going to see him in. And I thought that was something we were kind of developed to over time. But the way that they ended off last season, this is now a few weeks later, and we've actually seen the way he left Chloe led to this costume is, and the reason why I think it is black is showing that he's really distancing himself from the life from before, the brightness that was the red and blue blur. He's trying to make more of an impact the way his father wanted him to make an impact, and I really liked the way this opened from that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it just makes, I think this season's going to be another just great, you know, roller coaster ride with this franchise and this reimagining of the whole Superman, Clark Kent, the whole thing. And just I agree with you. I like how they're getting into him starting to, you know, is he going to completely embrace this Kryptonian side? We don't know yet. It's kind of early to tell, but the costume change is interesting.
Well, the thing I thought was actually kind of neat, because I was a little bit nervous at the end of last season, because he was saying how he was going to separate himself and back off, and I'm like, are we going to get the, I have no emotion, Clark Kent type whiny / you know, what's
I am Superman.
Exactly. I was worried about that, but they explained why he's backing off of this. Yeah. It's the Kryptonian, you know, it's their history, their culture, and it's, you know, he's separating himself from his human side so he can fully embrace his destiny as being a hero. I love that. This right there boom, within a couple minutes of just seeing him deal with Jor-El, kind of put me at ease to the whole change in the color motif, change in, how he's doing stuff, his stepping away from, his human side, him not being around there for Chloe, while Chloe's mourning the death of Jimmy. It's only been 3 weeks since her boyfriend, her husband, had the thing jammed through him.
I really liked that.
Yeah,
that they didn't just make it seem like, oh, wow, Chloe can just recover from it. Everything's going to be hunky-dory. They went through so much together as a couple. I actually think it would have been a major misstep to ignore that and to make it seem like, well, Chloe was able to move on. She was able to delve into her work and really kind of... That was so traumatic that to do anything less than acknowledge that this is a major problem for her would have been a huge... It would have been bad writing in my eyes. You really need to...
That would have been a misstep.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder how her relationship with Clark is going to...
Oh, yeah.
Is it going to endure? What's where's it going to go? How's that going to be affected?
I think we now will get 100% answers as to why Chloe and Clark never really got together. How there was always that thing, does Chloe still have feelings towards Clark? And when Jimmy came along and her feelings got really tested in that last the one season where they're hooked up to the electric chair with the truth. I can't remember what the episode. I
know what you're talking about.
There
was a machine where basically put them to the test,
right?
And she had to basically
flat out. And she said no, she's in love with Jimmy, and that was the final. Okay, yeah. And there's still always going to be those dying questions whether she still has the feelings for Clark. I think we just saw right then and there. There are no more feelings. There may be friendship and there will be understanding, but there is no more emotional, love as that way. There's the friendship love, the, like a big brother type love, but it's not the, the emotional love.
So you're thinking this, because her contract's up at the end of the season, so are you thinking we're going to see the end of the Chloe story?
I think we're going to see the end of the Chloe story.
Because these are Chloe and Clark are the only two original ones from season 1 that are with us now.
Oh yeah, good point.
So
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's true.
I think this is probably going to be the end of Chloe. And I don't think it's going to be end in a death or anything like that. I think Chloe, by the end of this season, is going to move on. And we're going to see her go maybe to Star City, maybe go to Coast
don't want to
City,
see her die.
or something like... We're going to see Chloe Sullivan leave Smallville, leave Kansas, leave this area. Because she's now getting to the point where Clark isn't this great love.
Let me ask you guys this, as long as we're on Chloe. Do you guys feel that there has to be a resolution to Chloe? Does she have to be written out in order for this to work for you? Or would you care if, okay, we've got 2 more seasons. Would you care if they renewed her, if there was a way to do that? And the show ends with a resolution to Smallville, maybe. We're leaving it open that, Clark goes off and becomes Superman, but Chloe is still around. Does there have to be a resolution of that it makes sense that she is not in the story anymore for the comic book end of it? Or do you guys feel that this universe is on its own enough? Do you have a preference? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there. I'm just curious where your guys' head's at. Do you want to see a resolution of that?
Here's the thing with me. I want a good story to be told. So if a good story has, Chloe stay throughout the whole time, and when the series eventually ends, there has to be an ending, but the ending could be leaving on that this continues, this relationship that Clark and Chloe have, that we don't need to, we don't really need to see Chloe come into the comic. I would love to see it because I do think Chloe Sullivan is a cool character, right. But we don't need to see her enter the comic world. This is its own separate universe. To me, this is like Earth 23. I'm going to throw out a number. This is one of the Earths of 52, is how I look at Smallville. And I also look at the movies as being other Earths in the 52 universe.
Why Earth 23?
I just threw that out. Well, I'm
kidding. Don't even acknowledge that. Chris, what about you? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. What is your feeling, though? What do you want to see, or do you have a preference?
I don't. At this point, I don't know if I do have a preference. They've been through the whole gamut of, Jim alluded to earlier. They had there was that romantic love that Chloe had for Clark, and and when they were teenagers back at Smallville High School, and I guess to take the diplomatic approach, I'll echo what Jim said. basically, as long as we get good story, even if they don't have a resolution between the two of them, they go their separate ways, that would be fine with me. I don't think it has to be an ultimatum and Chloe's got to be killed off or whatever. But that little nightmare dream sequence does make you kind of wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah, the end of the episode, just with that whole Lois dream sequence, and I loved how they did that was the final sequence when you see these bits and pieces, flashes of what probably is going to happen in a year, and you're just like, in one of the scenes, Chloe is lying dead on the ground. So,
but see, in my eyes, and I guess I've got a, and like I said, there's no right or wrong answer to this. My personal preference, though, and this is a testament to Allison Mack and to the writers and how they've created this character so strongly. I don't care if this character aligns with the comic books or not. It's irrelevant to me. And I agree. Actually, when you said your Her 23 thing, it was kind of funny because I'm like, well, okay, I could take this being an alternate whatever, because I agree with you. Good storytelling is the key, and you guys are right about that. But the character to me has been so cool for all these seasons and so well developed that I care about this character so much that seeing her lying in a pool is not where I want her to end. I want this character to not only live, I'd like to see her continue on in any capacity. Because, this whole, Watchtower thing they've been doing with her, I think is just brilliant. If they wrap it up with a good storyline that makes sense for her exit, I'm cool with that. I'm fine with that. So I'm not upset or anything. But if I had my preference, she's a character, even when you said, her going to another city or something like that, the option to spin her off into something would be... Because I think it's a character who, I think, has her own fan base. I think it's why fans will periodically clamor.
Dude, we're looking at the poster right there, man. We're looking, just so, because no one else can see what we're looking at, a Birds of Prey poster. Come on, tell me. She is Oracle.
See, I don't want
she
that.
Is Oracle.
I completely disagree.
I want to see her go to Gotham, recruit
You were aware
Black
there was
Canary.
a Birds of Prey series
yes,
that was
I loved
set
it.
in this...
And
right.
I loved it. Yeah.
Right, and there was an Oracle in that.
Yeah, I know. And she did a wonderful job.
Yeah, you see, that you and I adamantly disagree on this.
Yeah.
I don't want Chloe to be any other character. I want her to be Chloe.
Well, I want her to do exactly like this with, give her Black Canary, introduce a Huntress, have her, go off, and that's how you end the character of Chloe, that she goes over,
But see, that's where we disagree, though. That is where I don't want to see the end of the character Chloe. I want to see the character.
Okay,
Ideally, I want to see the character.
The series is going to end. The series is going to end at some point in time. It's not going to.
No, it's never going to end.
Dude, let it go.
No. And don't say otherwise. You can't get out that door right now.
Help.
It's a nice thing about having 3 people in here. We are a fire hazard.
The door's not that thick. I think I can make it through.
And that window's tiny. But I don't know. I'm pretty adamant on that. Touching on something else that went on the series, you went to the dream, but one of my only disappointments with last season was the fight between Clark and Doomsday. I really would have liked to have seen something.
Take a number.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a great season, so I'm not knocking the season. The storytelling in there was great. The Davis storyline, the way it wrapped up, I felt like one more episode was needed to kind of give us the kind of powerful battle that we were looking for. I think especially with the amount of heroes that they had, you really could have done a lot more pacing in that battle, and 2 episodes would have been perfect for it. This season kicked off with a fight sequence between Clark and a Kryptonian, and it was not excessively long or anything, but as I was watching, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, yes, this is more of what I wanted to see with Clark and Doomsday. It was Clark got depowered, she got depowered. Well, she wanted to kill Clark, so she depowered him and herself with blue kryptonite, which was very cool. Gets into this sequence where they're fighting. We get to see that Clark was doing the training with Jor-El that he was talking about. Clark was holding his own in a depowered one-on-one battle, which I thought was great to see that progression in Clark in a way that I don't think we've seen him been able to fight previously.
We saw a confident fighter in Clark.
And I liked it.
That was a neat thing. That was like, ooh, all right. Someone's been doing some training. And I liked just seeing him scramble as he looks around. He's grabbing weapons from around there. She was using weapons from around there, throwing the saw blade as little shurikens type thing.
And I liked that it hit him.
Yeah.
I liked that even though he dodged out of the way, it wasn't that he was this super duper fighter that can dodge. He didn't do like a Matrix-like move. I mean, they slowed down the camera to give you those visual effects, but it did slice him. I liked that aspect of it. It added a little bit more realism to me.
Yeah, I think that if there's one criticism of season 8. And I just recently went back and revisited the entire season and thought it was excellent. But you're 100% correct. I wanted to see a little more destruction in Metropolis. I wanted to see them just kind of have that cage match, if you will.
Yeah.
And it Doomsday got a few good licks in, and then Clark gets up and gets his super speed and takes him and throws him down in that mine shaft, and it's like, what the heck just happened?
Because what I saw, and I will say this, when we saw them, like the punches that were being thrown, visually were stunning. So very cool visual effects there last season. I wanted to see more of that. The barn battle that we saw here was like a taste of what I really wanted to see between Clark and Doomsday. So I'm complimenting the barn battle in this episode as being more along of what I was looking for with Doomsday. I still would have wanted to see. The barn battle ended appropriately, but I thought like that was the right direction that the Doomsday battle should have gone in, with multiple stages, them going through, because they came crashing through that barn, and I was like, yes.
And that fight should have had the Justice League even throwing down. Could you see just like Green Arrow's hitting Doomsday with nothing, then Canary blasts him with a cry, Bart runs in with a flurry of punches, and Doomsday just shrugs those off, but that gives Clark a second to recover, and then he hits again. They could have really taken a full episode and made it just the fight, and that would have been just wonderful. But it's
and I love the season, so I don't want anyone to say it's. Did I like last season? Yes, a great deal. That episode, though, I'm used to Smallville finales completely blowing my mind, and that one was a good finale. I felt that it was definitely a decent finale. The fight itself took a little bit away from it, though.
Absolutely. I think that would have been one time where it would have been appropriate to either, like you said, draw it out over 2 episodes or have that hour-and-a-half season finale.
Yeah. Half an hour, you're right. Another half an hour would have been perfect.
It would have been very appropriate right there. But as far as season finales go, there have been some better ones in the series. But again, we're grasping at straws. But when you see the season premiere and that sequence, it was, hey, where was this?
Well, that's
4 or 5 months ago.
It is a compliment to this opening, because I really needed action at the point in time that they showed it, because I wanted to see what's different about Clark now. Where is he? And we've seen him in the comics depowered, where we've seen the fact that this guy, because of years of fighting and combat, he doesn't back down. We saw it as recent as, did you read, I don't know if, Chris, if you read the Legion of Superheroes arc yet. I don't know how much, I know you're reading New Krypton now.
Right.
The kickoff of New Krypton. Did you read anything before that they've done yet?
No, I have not.
If you start going back, the Legion of Superheroes arc has a bit where Clark is depowered, and I won't spoil any of that. But other than to say, what we get to see here is what I think is typical of Clark when he's depowered. A lot of times we get caught up in the fact, is it the powers that make the man or the man that makes the power? And we see a Clark in this episode that shows us that, powered or not, he's Superman. And I liked that. And I also liked, we started talking about advice that he was getting from Jor-El. And I think one of the great things about this episode was Jor-El gives him certain advice. Chloe thinks, she's got the right advice for him too, that, he needs to distance himself from humanity and all that. My personal opinion is, and I think it's a great thing, I think they're giving him the absolute opposite of the advice that he needs. I think that we're seeing, and I think what we're seeing at the end of this episode especially, is the core roots of who this guy is are fighting their way through no matter what. Even if he believes that their advice is good advice, there's a part of him that can't let go of that, and I think that's the part of him that's always made him Superman versus being Zod, versus being any other Kryptonian that's ever made an appearance in the comics or on the series. The distinction is his humanity. It's what he got from Jonathan and Martha Kent, but not just them, from his interactions with Lana, from his interactions with Jimmy, Pete, all the way through Lois now, Chloe. These are characters who've all contributed to that, and those relationships are important to him. They're key.
Yeah, it's kind of neat because he's holding back and he can't, fly yet. And he was confronting Jor-El about, why don't I have the powers yet? And Jor-El saying, well, you have to distance, and we're all just sitting there watching the show.
But also they're inside him.
Yeah, but we were all sitting at the show, and even you were like, that's wrong answer. I'm like, Sean, they can't hear you on the TV.
I know. It is. It's like a horror movie.
You gotta yell it out, man. Yeah.
Don't open the door.
I tell you, the second he really he goes back to and embraces just the humanity and just the love and just those positive raw emotions that made him that he learned from being growing up on a Kansas small farm. That is where we're going to see the flying Superman. That's where we're going to see the red and blue come back. And maybe we'll get to see a costume. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Personally, I still want to see it, but I don't know.
But I think you're exactly right. This is season 9. How many times over the years, time and again, he has always gotten himself in trouble with Jor-El when he embraced the human side. And it's so ingrained in him that right now he's trying to step away from that, but ultimately I think it, like you said, it is who he is, and it's ultimately we can only speculate, but I think that's what's going to really make him the Superman that we know and love.
Do you have favorite sequences from this episode or a favorite moment? One of my favorite visual moments, they did that pan over shot of the Statue of Liberty, where you see him standing in the middle of the hat over there, and of the hell, I should say, her crown, her hat.
Hat?
Her little, her crown. I'm sorry. Yeah, the crown of the Statue of Liberty. It's the Statue of Liberty. It's not as important as Superman, but anyway, her crown. Right in the middle of the crown is Superman standing there, looking pretty darn cool in the middle of the crown, and he's doing this to test his flight, but that visual of when they pan through and I'm like, there he is! That was so cool for me. It was another iconic, it was like, where's Waldo? But it was a really iconic moment to see him there because it was a place you would only see typically Superman, and then he dove off at the test flight. But that was one of my favorite. Do you guys have favorite moments in this? It doesn't have to be your absolute favorite, but what were some things that kind of stood out for you in this episode?
The S.
Oh, yeah.
Burning the S's into the... Yeah, that was kind of neat, seeing his symbol pop up in different spots. Definitely like that, too.
I didn't expect that on this episode, to be getting the S used all over the place as his calling card.
Right, yeah.
Well, it's a great way to... Because they're building up the character. You think about it, it makes sense now why... When he does eventually get the costume, when he eventually goes back to the red and blue, why he'll have the bright red S on his chest with the gold backing. It's... when he goes back to being, the red and blue blur, he's probably going to go red and blue blur plus the S symbol on his chest.
Because he's already established his family name symbol as being who he is and the identity.
One thing that's interesting with that dream/nightmare sequence that Lois had, there was a close-up of Zod's symbol on his chest. Mm-hmm. So you that interplay of the yin and the yang, you wonder how much of that's going to be played upon throughout the course of this season.
And of course there was a sequence where Lois and Clark are getting it on. You're like, yeah, baby, go.
Are you sure she was with Clark?
What?
Are you sure she was with Clark?
I'm pretty sure she was with Clark. Maybe.
No, I'm with you. I actually agree with you. I was just throwing it out there.
For me, though, probably one of my favorite scenes from this movie, from this episode, was that whole trial sequence of Zod.
Yeah.
When they're sitting there, and they even had the panel up above, and then everyone's sitting there, and just his speech that he gave, I was just like, yeah, I'll follow this guy. And and one by one, they get up and they all go down to their one knee, and they're just like showing respect for Zod. I was just like, oh, that's good.
You know what I liked about that in particular? Zod's speech. Because you get to see, I think to me, the coolest villains are the ones where you can understand why people would follow them. And in his case, there is that gray area with him where you can see that he's a strong military leader here. You can understand. As he was speaking, I was ready to, become Kryptonian.
Yeah, see, he's not a reluctant leader. Okay?
No.
He's the direct definition of not a reluctant leader. Just in case you're curious.
And you know I'm editing you out of this episode, so that's actually why Chris is here. Where's Jim on this episode? Sean's joined by Chris.
It won't be the first one you edit me out.
Wish you were reluctant to open your mouth there. We had a debate on the show about whether or not Superman's a reluctant leader. And my personal feeling was that Superman was, in fact, a non-reluctant leader and an eager leader. But we're not going there again.
No, we had that. That was a lengthy discussion that we're not going to go through.
Very lengthy.
Just like calling for backup, we don't have those debates anymore.
You say it almost every episode.
Well, I got to now.
But Tess Mercer, ruler of Australia. I think we have to talk about her a little bit. I really enjoyed Tess Mercer this episode. I actually enjoyed her character development. When she first came out, I was kind of like, okay, bargain basement Luthor. And as her characters developed, I think the interesting thing is the trials she's gone through in her life that we've seen has made her her own unique character. I think it's interesting to see what she's overcome to be there. To know that she's got a heart in there, even though she's a wild card and she's out for her own agenda, and we as fans, I think, know that she's definitely errs more on the wicked side than on the side of good. But she does have that part of her. It's kind of like what happened with Lex early on. They've done a great job of developing her in a way where you can't help but like her, but you know. And they've kind of had to speed up her progression in a way that Lex, they had 8 years to do it. With Tess, they did it in one season, and I really liked how they did it, though, because it didn't feel like cookie-cutter Lex for me. Obviously, they were trying to fill a dynamic that they need in the series. And I thought they did a really good job of it. But her, this episode in particular, and her reaction with Zod, and how Zod recognized immediately that the traditional ways of trying to break this woman just are not going to work. She's not afraid to die. She's alluded to the fact that if she was gunned down, it would be almost a mercy for her. So that was interesting for me. What do you guys think of that character and how she played off in this?
I agree. I like the whole Tess thing. I thought that she was a good replacement for Lex Luthor, being on the fringe, being in the shadows. And you kind of wonder, does she still have that part of her that isn't beyond redemption? Because season 6, Lex took that turn where there was no turning back.
Right.
And anybody who hasn't seen season 6, when he finally throws Lionel, he does the header off of Luthor Corp. It's like he's just completed there's no turning back for this guy. He is now Lex Luthor. Yeah, she's one who, like you said, exactly right. She's not the traditional, she's been through, Hell's Gate and back. So it'll be interesting to see how her character continues to develop throughout this season, and what direction she's going to go and what role she's going to play.
Yeah, she definitely has the chance of redemption. She's not beyond redemption, and she's not pure evil, but she's going to be one of those interesting characters to follow, because I honestly think they could completely spin the character without even batting an eye and making it look like everything she's done for good reasons. Like they did with Lionel Luthor. When they first brought out Lionel Luthor, he was just, they made him off to be like he was this great evil character, and by the time Lionel died, you're wondering now, questioning, okay, was he really doing everything to protect Clark, and to protect the Traveler, and to protect, this Kryptonian savior, or was he doing it to control the Kryptonian? What's was his true motivation? So there's definitely some good and or some possible full darkness they can go with her. She's one that I think until the final end, that's when we're going to learn everything about her.
Tess was interesting too, that she put herself in the line of fire, put her life on the line, because she could have died there very easily in order to get information. She told her security, do not get involved, no matter what happens, because she wanted to record all of that. She wanted to get all that data and use it. Unfortunately, he found out later that the Kryptonians are a little smarter than her. They can, even our heaviest encryption, they can get through, and they wiped everything. Which I love too, because that's a military group. They want to stay under the radar. They want to be covert. It just shows the type of military strategist that Zod is. Zod is thinking one step ahead of even Tess, who's proven that she is a formidable opponent and adversary. So she's nothing to him.
Absolutely.
One of the other things this season, it looks like I expected, like, when I saw the 3 Kryptonians, I'm like, okay, we're going to play around with, or 4 Kryptonians, I think it was, that we saw in Zod's group over there. I thought we were going to see that kind of stay for a few episodes. I had no idea we were seeing so many Kryptonians. Like, we saw that whole room for them, like, and they were saying they were searching for their family all over the place. I'm like, are they? I turned over to you almost immediately and I said, are they doing Kandor here? And I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that?
This is definitely Kandor, and they even referred to the bottled city. My guess is
that the orb? Do you think that was the bottled city?
Yeah, I'm guessing that if you're looking like the comic book universe, this is right as Brainiac took Kandor. something happened to pull them from there and bring them here. So Kandor was taken, and I think I'm going to guess that we're going to see them go back to Krypton. And they'll be back on Krypton by time Krypton is destroyed. And because we see Zod as Major, after this ordeal, he'll be back over and thing. And that's, I think, how, like, if you're looking at a timeline-wise, that's what's going on.
Could the Ring have caused all this?
The Ring definitely could have caused it. This could be...
Because if you think about when Zod appeared at the end of the last episode, that was right around the time when Lois put on the ring, right? If it allowed a Kryptonian to come back when Lois did it open up a doorway that allowed the orb to pop through? I mean, I could be I could be diving and picking at straws here, but I just wondered if do you take it that Zod and crew are here presently from Brainiac, like that's present day for them, or are they from the past here now? Because we've seen Zod in Smallville in previous seasons, but it was much later.
I'm thinking past Kryptonian history when Brainiac was attacking and was taking the city of Kandor. That's where I'm taking they pulled them from. Now, I don't know
Is that the voice then, Brainiac, are you taking? The voice that they heard?
Possibly Brainiac's voice. It could be Brainiac's voice. I don't know.
Or is it the movie phone guy? Welcome, Zod. Press 1 if you want Kryptonians. Press 2 if you want Lois back from the future.
Hit him, please.
Press 3 if you want someone to try and kill Clark. Metallo. Corbin. We see Corbin introduced here, and then it looks like next episode, especially from the preview of it, we're going to see Metallo in all of his glory. Brian Austin Green. What'd you think of him? I was actually really surprised because I watched 90210 back when it was on. So I guess when I heard Brian Austin Green, I thought it was going to be interesting because I liked him on that show, but I thought to myself, like, okay, I'm going to see the David Silver character playing Metallo. I thought he did a really good job of playing a more mature character, but I don't know. What did you guys think? Did it?
No, he's matured a lot since 90210.
Well, I've watched the Sarah Connor Chronicles, and he was a character in it, so I kind of knew. I kind of figured he was going to bring that character and that style of acting in, and he did bring that over. He's probably a little bit more smoother as he was like sitting there trying to charm and or whatnot with Lois, or basically set her up. But it still had that same kind of gruff that type of character that he was playing over there. So I had no issues or worries about it because seeing what he's done in other stuff. So
I was figuring I was going to be saying, "Oh, Donna," all the time, and I didn't get that vibe at all. I thought it was really interesting to see that dynamic. I thought he played off of Lois really well.
Dude, if you're going to say, "Oh, Donna," you got to do it right. Oh, Donna.
No, that's
oh,
Richie Valens, La Bamba.
Oh,
I saw that movie too.
Donna.
Yeah. Stop it or I'll go East Side.
I got to sing at least once in this episode. Hey, I'll have you know, I've had people request more singing on the episodes. So there you go.
Yeah, but they're crazy. Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't like to insult our listeners. I love our listeners. But I think most of our listeners would agree that there's a portion of our audience that's crazy. Now, this is coming from people who record 3 to 4 hours a week and put them out in a small, tight room that's really hot. But so, I mean, I'm calling people crazy, and that's, pot calling the kettle black. But your singing is just, it's grating. Oh, Dada. Trying to think
hey, you opened up the door.
I did.
Okay?
I did.
You got to be careful there, man.
My big mistake. Well, I set you up on purpose. Yeah. That's it's part of the show. It is interesting to see what the dynamic with Lois and Clark will be as this show continues over the next 2 seasons. Do you want to ultimately see them together? Do you want her to know that he's the red and blue blur by the end of Smallville? Or is that something that you would like to remain a mystery? Have you guys thought about that at all? I'll throw out my answer right now, and you guys can kind of go think about yours because I'm dumping this question on you. I like that relationship and how it's developed so much, and I think they're doing such a good job of playing off of the she doesn't know now that by the end of it, I want her to know. I think it's so ingrained in the comic books right now that she does know. I want her to know by the end of this.
I concur. because they've done such a great job since introducing Lois in season 4. Just that dynamic between the two of them, that they are, all intents and purposes, a couple. I mean,
But
Good.
my thing on this is, depending on what happens when this ends, if they have plans to take this to the big screen, part of me would like to have her find out on the big screen. But if they're not going to take this to the movie, definitely she needs to know. She needs to find out in the end. And I personally want her to figure it out. I want her to sit there and just... clicks and she goes, wait a minute. Clark. Like they had with Jimmy, when at the end of the thing, where Jimmy did figure out Clark and Clark revealed it, and granted then that got him killed. So, but, it's... I think I do want her to figure this out and just have it, not be the hello, duh.
Well, I think because they've got 2 more seasons, that's one of the reasons why I'm thinking where the relationship is now. I'm very happy with where it is right now. Like, I don't want her to know tomorrow, but it is something that I would like to see by the end of it because I think it's been developed so well. And I like them together as a couple in the comics now. I think it is something that it's a testament to the writers who have worked on Superman that they've kept a married character so interesting. Because I do think that that's something that is an interesting dynamic with Superman, that especially right now in what's going on in the Superman books, the fact that he's married right now, I think is a lot more interesting than if he wasn't married to her right now. I don't want to say too much more because he hasn't read what's going on right now. So that's why I want to, we'll talk about it a little bit later when you and I go into the Superman books. But I do think that marriage dynamic is something that, I'm not saying that I want to see them married necessarily in Smallville. I don't know that they need to take it that far, but I like the idea of her knowing that he is Superman by the end of it, and we could see the logical progression that these two would eventually get married and go that route.
I would like to have my cake and eat it too. That ultimately, speculating that you have season 9, season 10, and she, I have my ideas what I'd like to see for a final episode and where it could go. And
what is that?
Does he become? I'd like to see him. I'm not saying full-fledged Superman, but I do want to see. I want to see him in the costume in some vein, but possibly Lois figures it out, that series finale, and then take it to the big screen. No disrespect to Bryan Singer and Superman Returns, but I think Tom Welling is the best person right now to take that mantle on the big screen. And we were talking before the episode about this Lois Lane. This take
She's
on
great.
her. She's phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely the best of the Loises. Hands down for me, because we're seeing just the all the cool stuff that we like about Lois in the comic. We're seeing it in this character, but she's not cookie cutter sticking to the comic. She's her own character, and you're slowly seeing the development of what it is.
Yet the roots of the strength of Lois Lane are there. Her getting herself into situations because she just can't stay away from them. Even with Ollie in this, we actually didn't talk much about her and Ollie in this episode. She goes in undercover in the middle of Fight Club, and all for the purpose of getting to talk to Ollie. Now, that could have gone, realistically, horribly wrong. If people figured out who she was and what was going on in there, because you figure that's an underground thing to have a reporter in there. She could have been, severely hurt in that situation. I really liked that dynamic that she went in there. I mean, ultimately, she was almost hurt because she was being hunted down by the person that came back after she brought back the Legion ring. But I did like the whole dynamic that she was willing to go that level, to get to Ollie, to hopefully try and bring him back around. It was an interesting dynamic. And she was right about Ollie. And I liked that she knew Ollie even better than Ollie knows himself, because I think his lashing out at her, that was great acting there, because I thought the realism of that situation was I genuinely felt Ollie was mad because he didn't know how to deal with her possibly knowing him better than he knows himself.
Oh, definitely. And I want to see more. Of course, we're going to see more of Green Arrow. Yeah. We know he's going to come back. It's just the question of how and when. Because they talked about how all of the Justice League just disappeared. And they all felt kind of guilty about Jimmy dying and not being able to stop and not being able to be the heroes that saved the day. So I want to see more of what's going to happen. Where's Bart at? Where's Dinah at? And even let's bring back Zatanna, who was absolutely wonderful last season. So, and Cyborg. Come on.
Here's the funny part. There's all this talk of, how hard it is to get the Justice League film going. You just named a whole bunch of Justice League characters.
I just named the league.
You could lead this. You could lead this into a Justice League film very easily, because these characters work when they work together. I mean, there's stories that are told here where it's not forced. These characters fit. We all get excited. You know, the Justice League episode, the first one that they did where they were walking, like Reservoir Dogs. I was like, yeah, you worked that. That was awesome. And, this is a great example of how you make that work today. And yet you've got characters that are already their universes are already intertwined. And here's the great part. If you do a Green Lantern movie, you can easily bump that Green Lantern into this group, because they don't have a Green Lantern yet on Smallville. So, if you want to do interlocking universes and all that, if legally there's a way to take this Smallville stuff right to the big screen, you can do that. And I know that the Christopher Nolan Batman, Christopher Nolan doesn't necessarily want him intertwining with that. You don't need, don't get me wrong, in my dream world, I would love to see Batman in the Justice League film. But if you're not going to do that, you got room for a Wonder Woman and a Green Lantern in this group, and you're done.
Well, and
you got an Aquaman.
In Smallville, they've had a Green Arrow kind of be the Batman role.
Sure.
So we've already seen that type of archetype. So once again, this is a different setup.
Well,
you don't really need the Batman. Granted, it would make it cool. I'm not throwing down against the Batman.
No.
He is cool, and I would love to see him in Smallville. But that archetype we already have in this Justice League.
You never read the Mike Grell Green Arrow stuff, though. And this is the Longbow Hunters and that stuff. You never read that, right?
No.
Yeah. A lot of the Green Arrow you're talking about in this is actually, it's not on a character at all for Green Arrow throughout his history. The Mike Grell era, very much so. This is, they're pulling from a lot of the current Green Arrow mythos, but they're also going to the past and pulling some stuff that really in the comic books worked very well with him. He's had eras as a dark vigilante, and that, not like you said it best, he skirts that line, but he's not Batman. He's still Green Arrow. He's still got those qualities about him, and that was something I thought the show did very well. I never felt like he was Batman. I felt like he was still like he skirted the same distance that Mike Grell's Green Arrow did, and never went over that, which is kind of tricky with that character to not, because you don't want him to be a generic Batman. You want him to be, because Green Arrow's cool. So, to have him as be anything less than Green Arrow would be a major travesty, I think.
I do want the boxing glove arrow, though. I do want that just once, Come on.
Would that fit this? Do you think it would? I have never felt the need for it, but I guess I'm curious as to why.
Here's what I think. I think maybe not in usage, just sitting in the background of his office, his lair, and just even just have it just sitting there.
Experiment gone wrong.
Yeah, an experiment gone wrong.
Well, there was a reference to it in previous season, where in his lair he says to Clark Kent, "I did think about the old boxing glove arrow, but." So they did.
Oh, okay. See, I don't remember that.
Yeah, they did make kind of a reference, but it would have been after he says that, you turn back and on the couch there's this big arrow with a boxing glove attached to the end of it.
A prototype.
Oh, cool. See that? Okay, yeah. So they did it already. All right.
Yeah, they didn't have a prototype, but it'd be you're right. It would have been interesting to see a prototype run that way. Well, this is great, guys, and Chris, I want to thank you for joining us for this segment, because I've been wanting to have you on the show for some time, and it's always one of those things like we've never, honestly, the honest truth is we just never went and took it to this point where we did it. We always had things we could talk about, we just never did it. I figured when we talked last week about watching Smallville together, I called Jim. I said, "Come on over. Let's do this. Let's get some pizza and we'll hang out and watch Smallville and come up and do a recording like this." It's always kind of a fun dynamic to get another voice in, especially with Smallville. Is always a good thing to talk about.
Well, I appreciate just the opportunity, and again, just given like kind of a layperson's perspective on it, and it was a fun time. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Holy caffeine!
Hey, Jim and John. It's Sébastien from Montreal. I'm calling to say that I just bought the Batman Arkham Asylum for the PS3. This game is amazing. Buy it now. Okay? Ciao.
I couldn't agree with you more. I started replaying the game on hard again, and I'm also going through and doing the challenges on the game that I had played previously on the normal mode. And I'm like at 90% now. But it's great because you can download new challenges from the PlayStation Network, and I'm sure the same thing is on the 360. And the new challenges are really fun. It's fun to go through and try to beat hordes of thugs as they're coming at you, and try to mix up your fighting style. You get more points for actually using more moves. So in order to actually get some of the medals that they want you to get in the game, you have to mix up the moves. You can't just do the same thing and do the button mashing in order to get the highest score possible. I like that aspect of it. It adds to a strategy. It adds more to the game. So I can't agree with you more. This game is awesome. I'm hoping that we get some downloadable content that offers some new things besides challenge maps. So I'm dying for a new story. Now, I say that, and that's not a criticism of the game, because honestly, if they didn't give us any of the downloads they've given us so far, I would have been incredibly satisfied. But what adds to the value of this game is the fact that you can go back through and try to collect all these trophies on the PlayStation Network to compare with other people. And I'm still trying. I'm like at 71%, I think, for trophies. Just a fun game. If you don't have a game system right now, this might be one. You know, I know there's all kinds of deals right now on the 360 and the PlayStation 3. You can't go wrong either way on whichever system you're going to play this on. And give this game a shot. It's awesome.
Hey guys, Donnie Salvo here. I'm sitting at home listening to your Blackest Night episode, enjoying it immensely, MAN, with a nice cold Red Stripe Jamaican lager. Red Stripe, it's Jamaican for beer. Anyway, yeah, I had a couple of theories. I was wondering, like, if the different emotional spectrum, you know, the Black Lanterns can see the emotions that the heroes portray. I wonder if each color powers up their ring differently. Like, if you get rage, it's like 0.8%, or if you get, you know, like willpower, you know, it's like 2%, or, you know what I mean? Like, something like that. I love the fact that Dove could not be raised. And that just shows you the history that Jeff Johns has of the DC Universe, because Donald Hall, from his inception in 1964 or 5 or whatever it was always a peace lover. That's why he got Dove. He would always try not to fight if he could. And, you know, where his brother Hawk obviously was the complete opposite, where he just wanted to kick butt and take names. And that's a huge clue, because this series so far just seems like it's hopeless. Like, what are you going to do? You know, like me, I would take all the robotic heroes like the Metal Men and Robot Man and, you know, the ones that don't have hearts, and I just turn them loose. And I would just sit home and watch, like, you know, Seinfeld or something. But that's me. I'm a comic, I'm not a superhero. So, anyway, forgot what I was talking about. Anyway, so, another thing is, when you were talking about the Atom, I don't think the Atom is dead yet, because that's going to be a huge scene in this book, where either he fights Hawkman or he fights his ex-wife. That's going to be ginormous. I don't think he's going to come out of it alive. I think Ray Palmer is gone. I think he's going to die. But that's the beauty of this thing. You don't know what's going on, and I love it. I love the fact that it keeps you guessing from month to month. I mean, I know we're only on issue 2 of 8, but, I mean, like, anybody's number could be up, and that's what I love about it. You don't know what's going on. Oh, and if, you know, you wanted to be part of the Black Lantern JLA, well, if you guys die and they don't accept you, you can always hang out with me when you die. And also about the costumes, you keep talking about how great their costumes are. I have a theory, just throwing it out there. Black Lantern Versace. He died a few years ago. Just throwing it out there. So, but I am enjoying the show. I hope I haven't babbled too long. I hope I made some points. I don't know. There's my voicemail. Discuss. Can't wait to see you guys in Pittsburgh. Take it easy. Bye.
Donnie Salvo from Reality Waste stopping by. Hey, Donnie. I liked your ideas about each power powering up differently. My personal theory on that, though, is it's based on how much emotion, like what we've seen with willpower. For example, the more determined that Hal is, the more willpower that he's exerting, the more powerful that we see that. We've seen that with Kyle. I think this idea of willpower, and Jon Stewart, all these guys have, I think you get the same thing with the other emotions as well. I think, like, for the Star Sapphires, the more love that they feel, like, you know, I think there's going to be times where we see Carol, exerting more love, more emotion when she's around Hal. And those are things where I think that these characters are going to play off each other in that way. My personal theory is I don't know if there's a different percentage per se. I think that's from individual to individual depending on how they're feeling at the time. But those are just my thoughts anyway. The Atom being dead, we've kind of already seen that he's not dead, but I want to see the fights that you're talking about. I want to see him versus Hawkman. I want to see him react to Jean Loring if she's going to be in this. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I love your idea of robotic heroes. Makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. Send out the guys that don't have hearts. I wonder if we're going to see robotic heroes fighting the Black Lanterns and what that's going to be like. I'd love to see the Metal Men versus the Black Lanterns and see what that dynamic is. And so I'm curious about that as well. And watching the Seinfeld episode, if it's the Puffy Shirt episode especially, or No Soup for You, I'm in. I love Seinfeld. But anyway, so it'd be great to hang with you if we die or if we don't die. I'd actually prefer to hang with you before we die. That'd be fun. Your Black Lantern Versace costume theory, it could be that's why they're so stylish. But thanks for the call. I want to read a quick letter that we got. Dear Sean and Jim, greetings. I've been a huge fan of the show for quite some time. I've been listening for years now, and I recently was listening to an episode where you wish you had a second Black Lantern ring. Enclosed are a couple for both of you and for the show. I'm an owner of the store called I Want More Comics. We're located in Denver, Colorado, and have a website, www.iwantmorecomics.com. Hope you enjoy and keep up the great work, guys. Your loyal fan, Zach Hardigan Reborn on the forums. And Zach, thank you so much for that. Actually, at the beginning of the episode, where we were talking about my little outfit for this episode, I was wearing 2 of the Black Lantern rings that you gave to us. So I thought it'd be kind of fun, and I gave Jim his as well. So thank you very much for that. And if you are in the Colorado area, actually, if I'm in the Colorado area, I'm definitely going to be checking out I Want More Comics. And it's located at 104th and Federal in the King's Supers Shopping Center. And the hours are Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., Sundays, 12 p.m. to 5 p.m., and Mondays they're closed. So, very cool. Check out I Want More Comics.
Hey, Sean and Jim. This is Micah. I was just calling to let you guys know that you can, in fact, play Shoot Some Ladders or Sneak Some Ladders. It's a Metamorpho game. I had a spinner laying around, and a friend of mine and I decided to try it out, and it actually does work, and it's kind of fun. Just letting you guys know. Also, what happened to, was it Top Bullets? Whatever segment it was. This was a while back you guys used to do, where all the readers would put up the favorite books of the month, and then you guys would have your own list too, and it was a fun thing to do, and then it disappeared, and I don't know where it went. Hopefully that'll come back sooner or later. Thanks, guys. Love the show.
I absolutely love that you played the Metamorpho game, because I was really curious as to whether or not it'll work, and I'll probably wind up playing it now, too. I always want to pick up another copy of that issue of Wednesday's Comics just to keep the game board, maybe laminate it at work or something like that, and actually use that to play the game. I think that is very cool that it actually works, so thanks for sharing that. Thanks for the comments about Top Bullets. You know what? I got to be honest with you. We've had so much show content lately that it's something that we moved away from, not on purpose. It was just something that we kind of put on the back burner and never got back to. You know what? After Preacher, I think that's something that Jim and I can revisit. We've got to get through the rest of For Tomorrow and Preacher, and I want to keep up with things like Blackest Night, and I want to do another Batman episode, and I want to do more content where we get to look at some of the books that we haven't, like, on the next episode, we're going to be talking about things like The Shield, for example. Some of the books that are a little bit lower on the radar, a little bit smaller books that are out there in the DC universe that really need to be discussed and talked about because they're interesting. Power Girl is another example of a book that I'm loving the heck out of that I really want to go back and talk about as well. So there's just a lot of things that are going on in the DCU that I think are incredibly fun and interesting. So once we get some of those things done and we've got some more space to do something like that, you're right, it's a fun segment, and I love having the listener involvement in that. I will say this, while you're waiting for us to get back to Top Bullets, if any of you want to send in your comments about books that you're enjoying right now, you want to send in your own top list, we'll air them on the show. We're going back to doing voicemails. Senseiofwhatnot at gmail.com is where you want to send those. You can also send them to ragingbullets at gmail.com if I get them. We're going to be doing more of these segments with listener involvement. It's one of the reasons why we're kind of restructuring things, kind of back to how we used to do them. So that's a great point. That's a great segment to have in, but you don't have to wait for us to go back to that segment to send in those comments, because I think it's interesting if there's books that maybe maybe we haven't talked about on the show a while, or ones that we have that you agree on. Send in your top 5 lists. We'll air them on the show, and let's get your thoughts out there. So don't have to wait for us to do that as a formal segment to get your thoughts out there. So thanks for mentioning that. And yeah, that's something I want to get back to too. It's just something that we have to get through some of the big things that we're working on at the moment, and we can look at putting a segment like that back on the show. I'll read a quick email that I got here from Brett Roberts. Hey, Sean and Jim. Let me start by saying thank you for the return to reading emails on the show. I never had the chance to put together a message or a voicemail, so this is the easiest way for me to contribute to the show. And a great big thank you for Preacher as the book of the month. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts. That book changed my perception of what comics can be beyond superheroes. Not that there's anything wrong with superheroes. Speaking of superheroes, I just wanted to chime in on the new Batgirl series. I know of the character from being a Batman reader, but have never read anything really focused on the Batgirl character as Barbara, Cassie, or otherwise. I decided to give the new series a shot just to see who was picking up the mantle. I have to say I absolutely love the new idea with Stephanie being Batgirl and Barbara eventually coming to terms to help her out. I really liked the Batman Beyond cartoon because of the concept of Bruce mentoring someone taking his old place. I realize why this can't work in the normal comics, and that's okay, but I'm enjoying the current run with Dick in the costume very much. The Batman Beyond concept came to mind reading the new Batgirl book, but set in the present instead of the future, which I like because it feels more connected. I really think this series has a lot of potential, and the first 2 issues were a good start. Thanks for all you guys do, Brett. And I got to agree with them, actually. Batgirl, I didn't make the connection to Batman Beyond until I was reading your email, Brett, and I've got to say that's actually a very cool connection between that series. And I also want to say something about your return to emails. I miss the emails on the show. It was something that I thought, well, if we put out the voicemails, it will be a lot easier for people to contact us. So we're going to be doing a mixture now of emails and voicemails just to get more content back on here, because I think a lot of people are running into the same problem you are, where sometimes it's just easier for them to send an email and to be part of the show that way. I've always liked the concept of having more listener involvement. It's one of the reasons why when we realized we were doing a lengthier episode this week, we decided to split that up like we used to in order to make sure that we had room for listener content, because that's been part of the problem. We do these mammoth-long 4-hour shows, and then we can't really do another hour to devote to emails and voicemails, and so it's kind of, this is a much better, more manageable way just split up the content to make sure that we get some more of the listener content back on. I think it makes for better episodes, too. So thanks for that feedback. But I got to agree with you. Batgirl is fantastic right now for me. We're going to actually have a segment this month devoted to Batgirl. We're going to follow up with Vin Ferrante like we did with the Oracle series, and we're going to have him come on, and we're going to chat in some more detail what's going on with Batgirl in the moment and how we're feeling about all that. It'll be after issue 3 comes out, but I think that book's really going very well.
Hey guys, Donnie Salvo here. I was really enjoying your Blackest Night discussion, and I have a theory on why Dove is all white whenever Hawk, the original Hawk, saw her. And I think because the original thing of Hawk and Dove back in the 60s was one was an agent of chaos and one was an agent of order. And Dove being an agent of order, I think it's because maybe all her emotions are in check, and therefore it can't read her because all her emotions are in order. So that's that. I guess I'll talk to you guys later. All right, bye-bye. Hey, Sean and Jim, it's Donnie Salvo again. I just wanted to add a little bit to my previous voicemail, and that would be about Dove being the order of an agent of order, and maybe order being the light, quote unquote, and maybe that's why Don Hall, the original Dove, could not be resurrected. It'll be interesting to see when they do the Blackest Night JSA miniseries and see how much of a role that Dr. Fate has in that, who I believe is also an agent of order. So, I don't know, discuss. I think it should be interesting. A lot of people think that the JSA mini is going to focus a lot on the Spectre relationship, whereas I think it's going to go towards the Dr. Fate end of it, because I don't think that the Black Lanterns are going to be able to. I think all the agents of order, I can only think of Dove and Dr. Fate off the top of my head, but I think that I think they're untouchable by the standards of the undead superheroes, the Black Rings, if you will. So, I don't know. I think that's about it. Okay, probably won't bother you again. Maybe I will. I don't know. Truth be told. Okay, you guys, I hope all is well. Take it easy, and bye-bye.
That JSA Blackest Night miniseries really interests me because I think, I'm hoping there's something with Dr. Fate because I'm loving the new Dr. Fate. And I think that would be a great way to show us some more on what exactly power-wise he has as compared to the previous Dr. Fates. Because of the fact that he doesn't have Naboo, we've already seen in the JSA appearance, which I really loved, the fact that his rules have changed a little bit. His resources have changed a little bit from where they were before. But I love that he can bring about and show that appearance of confidence like the previous Dr. Fate. But yet that we're getting that there's really a newbie in here and he's really trying to find his way. It's interesting with him as an agent of order, if we're looking at him that way. Are we going to see Fate versus Fate, for example? There are dead Dr. Fates. There's a dead Fate character, so it's going to be interesting to see what these characters look like. You know, and is death the same thing for characters who belong to the Dr. Fate universe, or is that somehow different? Because we've seen that their place of resting was in the helmet, but can they be then pulled? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they're pulled. But I do think we're going to see some Spectre stuff, especially with his history with the JSA. But I think we're also going to see things like Atom Smasher, and Damage with meetup of them. Sand and Sandman meeting up. Dr. Midnight and Dr. Midnight. Maybe Fate and Fate. I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities on how these characters can come back in. I think you might see Hawkman meeting up with the JSA team as well, and them having to deal with, his return, and what does that look like? So, or his return, but him being brought back as a Black Lantern. This universe in order thing, I think, is going to be interesting because it looks like the MO of the Black Lanterns is they're trying to bring order to the universe. That's something that Scar has mentioned previously. So this idea of emotions that are already in order, in check, being something that they're blinded to or aren't able to draw from, such as Dove. I think you're right. There is a big concept there. I'm not quite 100% sure. We don't have a lock on that yet, but I think you're right. Those are major clues to, if they're already in order, they can't utilize them. They actually pull from emotions that are really high-strung, emotions that are really high in one end or the other. So it's going to be interesting to see what this all looks like. It's this series, that's one of the things that I really like about it is how much I think about it when I'm not reading it, and how much I'm trying to wrap my head around what's going on, and how many theories that I'm putting together. But the mystery is really so strong and so rich that every time you think you get a handle on something, there is something else right around the corner that you're like, well, maybe it's this. And that's kind of the fun thing about it. So thanks for those calls, Donnie. On our Thursday night episode, Jim and I are going to be sharing some more listener emails on the show and probably a couple more voicemails. I'm going to see if there's a way that I can send those to Jim because I'm probably going to have to Skype him in for that. But we're definitely going to have more emails for sure. If not, we'll have voicemails on the next episode following, 181. I want to do this more often, more listener content on the show. Get this back in a strong part of the podcast. It's something, if you look back at our history of episodes, we've always done. And I think we got away from it because of these mammoth episodes we've been doing, whereas I want to start being a little smarter with the way we release our content, so we leave room for this kind of interaction back in the podcast again, and hopefully get back more frequently to you guys like we're looking at doing this week, for example. This is a direction that Jim and I want to head in, again with the show, going back to kind of our roots and pulling back and bringing back some of the fun things into the podcast episode.
To the Batmobile. Let's go.
Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Here, ready to move out.
Check out the website. I've been doing some updates over the past few weeks, and I'm gradually taking as many of the pages as I can and converting them over to the template that Mr. Chibi made for us. So I'm kind of gradually going through that process. It's taking some time, but just trying to clean up the site, make it a little nicer, and hopefully a little bit more user-friendly. And I want to thank Mr. Chibi again for taking the time to make that template for me to play with, because it looks great. I really like the look of the site now, and this has been long overdue. We are back on Thursday with a segment we've already recorded. We recorded on Superman's Secret Origin #1. And we also took an in-depth look at what's been going on in the Superman books. It's more of a casual discussion because we try to cover a lot of different areas. We try to talk about Supergirl. We try to talk about Mon-El. Of course, what's going on with Nightwing and Flamebird. Some of the Secret Origin issues and the specials that have been released, like these annuals, and how we've been enjoying those, and what's been going on, of course, with things like the Jimmy Olsen special that we haven't talked about, right up to some of the early bits with this Hunt for Reactron, which we had a really fun, in-depth discussion. We also discussed on that episode The Shield #1, which was done by Eric Trotman, and I think it's really a cool book, and it's a great discussion. It was funny. We had a tangent partway through where we just started really tackling in depth what we were enjoying about The Shield #1 and that series. And of course, we have a quick little discussion on Inferno as well. So that's our next episode. It'll be out on Thursday, and we have some listener email content that'll be joining us on that as well. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Secret 6 number 15, we told you about in the beginning. Regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79. That one's penned by John Ostrander, so definitely check that one out. Preacher Book 1 hardcover, episode 182. It's coming. Garth Ennis, Steve Dillon, Preacher 1 through 12. We see Preacher merging with the bizarre force called Genesis, and oh, is this irreverent?
Yeah.
This is an episode that's definitely not going to be for the kiddos.
No, definitely going to be an adult episode.
Yeah, we'll put a special warning on that one because normally we try to keep the show as friendly as possible for families, and that's an episode where we even with us trying to do that, there's topics we're going to have to discuss that kind of skirt a little off that. But that's regularly $39.99 for that hardcover, which is gorgeous, and 47% off, only $21.19. Did you read that in the hardcover?
Yes.
Okay. Was that your first purchase of Preacher, the hardcover, or did you have Preacher before that?
No, I had Preacher before that.
Okay, you just started
I had the Preacher trades.
Yeah. Volume 1 and Volume 2 in trade paperback, speaking of the trades, $14.99 regularly, 47% off, only $7.94 each, and that's issues 1 through 17. I did think it's cool, and I know I keep saying it every episode, and I like to note it. InStockTrades.com could have said to us, guys, we only want you to do the hardcover, and we only want you to do the trade at the extra 10% off discount. It was nice that they said, I mentioned, hey, can we do a budget version as well for our listeners, for people who want to do it a little on the cheaper side, and they were all for it. So I thought that was very cool. They supported us, so I want to thank them for their flexibility. I want to remind everyone about our contest that we have right now, Ragdoll of the Whatnot, and feel free to be creative with it. It doesn't have to be a Where's Whatnot Now. We actually have a brand new Where's Whatnot Now that's up on the website. Ooh. Mike Sims was kind enough. He found a super fan of Raging Bullets who on his hairy back has tattoos of Sean and Jim. So you have to see it on the website to believe it.
Oh, my God.
Yes, yes. Every time I see Mike Sims in my inbox, I smile because I know I'm going to laugh. But honestly, the Where's What Now, if you take a look at it, all of the listeners that have participated in that have really contributed some really interesting, they have great senses of humor. The sketch sections is wonderful, too, because we're getting more original sketches from not only comic creators, but also fans that are just sending in things. And please feel free to do stuff like that, comic strips, stories that you want to write about, and especially with this contest topic, anything revolving around Ragdoll of the Whatnot is perfectly fine for me.
And I just want to say one thing. Do not worry about insulting or offending me. Mm-hmm. I love this type of stuff, so have at it. Enjoy it. Just have a ball with it. This is Ragdoll, so there are no limits.
I think you should be the one to pick the winners. No, pick your ones that you find were the... Okay. Well, you know what? We said there's going to be top 4.
Right.
Why don't you pick 2 and I'll pick 2?
Okay.
We'll pick our favorite 2, the ones that we think are the most creative, the most unique, the most interesting. So we'll each pick 2. So that way it's not all the pressure's on you.
Good, because I do not want
that. But I'd like you to be involved in the deciding process. We're going to have 4 winners. The first grand prize winner will get a trade on me. The other 3 will be from our comic grab bag. I thought it'd be kind of nice. Let's sweeten the pot for the number 1 person that we both vote on. And I think we both have the right to veto the number 1 person. We'll kind of make that one the one that we think is the absolute top out of the batch. But all of them, anybody who participates in the contest, whether you win in the top 4 or not, everyone who participates in the contest gets automatically entered into our ongoing contest to be a guest spot on the show. Because I'd like to get as many people on doing that as possible, so that's fun. So please participate in that contest. Remember to check out Gail Simone's. We talked about how great Wonder Woman here is, and just how great forums are in general. Check out her Wonder Woman forum. We have a link to that in our show notes. Visit comics4site.com and consider helping out John Ostrander. I think it's really an awesome program. We'll see you on Thursday.
Bye.